going on, everybody? No countdown today. We jumped right into the live show. You joined us yesterday. We had Jay Privman on to just go over his entire history of racing throughout the Breeders' Cup. Today, we have a guest who is an absolute party animal, and he's a pretty sharp handicapper or punter as well, depending on the term you want to use. But we're going to talk all things Euro runners. I look forward to having him on as often as we can. We had him on once in a stream that we no longer speak about that went throughout the night, and it was one of the greatest conversations I think I've ever had with another human being. That guest is Emmet Kennedy. Emmet, what's going on, my man? Cheers.
Cheers to you. I was going to say, you can't say I'm a party animal, Ryan. I'm not. You don't know how boring my social life is. And then I realized I was literally pouring alcohol into a glass. As you say. Super professional. How are you, my friend?
On this channel, pouring a beer is professional. That's how we look at it. I'm doing fantastic. Just saw you wrap up over on the HHH Racing podcast. They had, the same similar show to what we're going to do. So if you missed part of that show, you'll hear some of that, and we'll probably get some new tidbits as well. But we're going to talk all things European runners for the Breeders' Cup. And first, Emmet, let's check in with you. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm in good form. I'm really excited for the Breeders' Cup. On this side of the pond, we've National Hunt Racing as well, which I know you guys aren't a big fan of. Although in your jumps racing in America, Irish trainer Gordon Elliott went over and wiped the floor with everybody and took every single race, which was just insane. But I have to be honest, like, as much as I love jumps racing, I'm so engrossed in the flat season and so engrossed in flat form that to switch codes and do full deep dives back into that as well has been a little bit overwhelming, quite frankly, particularly with the Breeders' Cup. I love this meeting. It gets huge. It's growing every single year in Britain and Ireland. It's huge attention. No small part due to the fact that Aidan O'Brien has dominated it. Charlie Appleby's had so many winners there as well. So it's covered by both channels, 3 channels actually. Our version of NBC, if you like, will show at ITV. Sky Sports Racing show every race. Racing TV will show all the races as well. So huge anticipation for that. Looking forward to it, and I'm going to need your help with some of the American form. But that Breeders' Cup Classic that's going to be a classic. I cannot wait for that race.
It's a classic for the ages, the way that the field looks right now. There was breaking news this morning. Locked, trained by Todd Pletcher, owned in part by Eclipse Thoroughbreds, is out after getting an illness. So the field is down to 10. Locked was probably going to be a bit of a long shot price in there, which is ridiculous considering he's a multiple times graded stakes winner and won a grade 1 earlier this year up at Santa Anita in the Santa Anita Handicap, which is a very revered race. So that just kind of goes to show you how deep the Breeders' Cup Classic field is. And we will touch on that as we get towards the end. Of course, there's no City of Troy this year, but there is another horse. There's plenty of horses. Yeah, thankfully. But there are plenty of horses to discuss in there. And you mentioned you have the hunts, the jumpers coming up on your side, across the pond, or whatever the correct phrase is there.
You got it.
In one of the turf races, one of them was a flag start. So there's a little bit of overlap there. So I'm sure we'll get to talk about that as we get into I believe it's the Filly and Mare Turf is the race in which one of those runners was, I guess, on the shit end of that.
Yeah, to be fair, Ryan, they were afraid of lightning strikes. I covered that race live on TalkSport 2 and just like major sports radio station, huge listenership. I was sighing. And I was like, how cringingly bad is this? The eyes of the world on Goodwood, and you're having a flag start for a major Group 1 flat race, which World just steals from the front end. You can't give a Group 1 winner that kind of a start in a Group 1 contest. But I think the horse that was beaten in that race, See the Fire, is actually becoming very, very interesting for the Filly Mare Turf.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. See the Fire is a very interesting horse, one I certainly have my eye on as well. And hey, you mentioned, you guys had a flag start for one of your biggest Group 1s of the season on national TV. And I don't know if you saw the Group 1 or Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup at Saratoga, but similar unfortunate circumstances happened for us on national TV. So it happens, both sides of the racetrack in all the countries. So without further ado, let's focus on the more positive side of things. We'll get right into the 2-year-olds on Friday. 5 furlong Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Interesting field. I'll let you kind of take it with the horses you'd like to talk about. But first, Aidan O'Brien is 0 for 3 in this event, which I thought was a little interesting given his sort of dominance. And Wesley Ward, the kind of USA dominant turf presence on our side in the U.S., he's only 1 for 10 in his last 10 Grade 1 turf sprint stakes. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. Whoa. The last win was in 2021 with Golden Pal in the Breeders' Cup, and that was over the 5 furlong sprint at Del Mar. But what are your thoughts on this race as they go 5 furlongs for the 2-year-olds?
I'm sure there's some stats nerd in the background going, well, actually, Aidan O'Brien won this race when it wasn't the Breeders' Cup main event race, I'll have you know, with declaration of peace. But you are right. Since it's been an actual proper Breeders' Cup race, he hasn't won it. This is the best horse he sent to it, though, True Love. And there was a sense of feeling, at least amongst some of the team, it wouldn't have been what does all those leaked political emails tell you about? There's the forward-facing attitude, and then there's the actual private-facing attitude. They wouldn't have been saying publicly that they thought True Love was over the top, but there was a fear that she might have been. Not at all. Not at all. Great ride from Wayne Lorden. He subbed in for the injured Ryan Moore and the suspended Christoph Sumi on that day and gave her a fantastic ride. The only other time he'd ridden her, at least on the racecourse, was behind Stad, and we know how good he is. He goes and wins the Coventry Stakes. She was really impressive. I think that's well, it clearly is her best performance. She's actually pulling away from Havana Anna towards the end of the race. The further they went, the better she was, which is a slight question mark for her. And they did have the option of going for the fillies, the fillies mile, the juvenile fillies turf instead. But she has peed. She's a Royal Ascot winner of the Queen Mary Stakes over 5 furlongs. That was on good to firm ground. Now that's on a straight mile, so it's a straight track, I should say. So it's a little bit different. But look, she's battered Puerto Rico twice, including when she was beaten in a Group 1 where she didn't really finish out her race, Ryan. She's still clear of Puerto Rico. He's unbeaten in the Champagne Stakes at Doncaster, and more importantly, the Group 1 Prix-Jean-Luc Lagardère last time out. So she's very, very special filly, very talented. I have a feeling Wayne Lorden's going to ride her, and that wouldn't concern me in the slightest bit. The reason I think that is because it's kind of something Aidan O'Brien intimated yesterday. I stupidly didn't ask him about Brussels, but I really like Mission Central. He's very talented. Now, they tried him over 5 furlongs in a Group 2 at Doncaster. They sent him off 9-4 favourite for the race, and he was well beaten. Back up to 6 furlongs on Champions Day at Ascot for the first running of a conditions race. He was really, really good. I think people might underestimate him. I do think he's faster than it looked at Doncaster. But this is going to be a different test for him, and True Love really should be the one to beat.
No doubt about that. True Love, the form kind of speaks for itself with what this filly has done so far. And obviously the filly taking on the boys is something you guys see all the time overseas. It's maybe something we're a little less accustomed to, but I wouldn't even, bring that into calculations as far as I go for the handicapping. One thing I do want to mention is the tight turns at Del Mar that we've talked about, time and again. And I believe you were on our Breeders' Cup show last year when we spoke about, the Del Mar turf course, and we're over that same turf course once again. Do you imagine the tight turns are going to be any sort of an issue? This will be an absolutely full field. We have up to like 7 or 8, AEs are also eligibles if they possibly draw in. So I would imagine it's going to be an absolutely stacked field of, I believe, 14 is the max. It might be 12. I probably should have probably should have checked that. But either way, full field, and it's probably going to be your first time going around a turn as tight as they have at Del Mar. Do you anticipate that being any sort of an issue?
Yeah, if I'm right, it's her first time going around a bend of any kind at all. Now, the only thing I would say is that Aidan O'Brien is the best trainer in the world without a shadow of a doubt. And anybody who says, well, he gets all the best horses, Charlie Appleby has about 200 2-year-olds in training. I think Aidan O'Brien has had 92-year-olds run this season, and Charlie has had 65. There's a big gap there. But Charlie Appleby's brilliant. He's a great trainer. I wouldn't say anything bad about him. But Charlie Appleby is almost the proof that Aidan O'Brien is the best trainer in the world, because he gets all the best Dubawis, he gets all the best Darley bred horses, and he doesn't have 22 Group 1s this season. He doesn't even have a Group 1 winning 2-year-old this season. Aidan O'Brien does have 22 Group 1s. He'll probably win 3 Group 1s this season. I'm saying he will probably win, Ryan. There are 3 Group 1s being run in Europe this weekend, and he's probably going to win the 3 of them. It's extraordinary what that man is achieving. It's just ridiculous. And yes, he has the firepower, but you have to get those horses to fulfill their potential. And the late, great Vincent O'Brien constructed the Ballydoyle Gallops to replicate Epsom, to replicate Chester. That meant that you're able to replicate those tight turning tracks on the Gallops at home that they then face at the Breeders' Cup. So this horse will be drilled. She will be very well prepped. And while she may not have experienced anything like Del Mar yet, she would have done so at the Ballydoyle Gallops. And for them to send her over there is no small thing at all. These races, the margin for error is very, very fine. And so I would proceed with caution. But the price you're getting on this side of the pond, at least, is currently 11-4. I think that's too... In fact, you can get 100-30 if you can get a bet on with that firm, which you should be able to. They're pretty decent with that way. That seems pretty fair to me. I don't see a logical reason as to why Havana Hannah would turn the form around with her. Now, Dunek is a really good trainer, and you're getting 6-1 about her compared to 130 about True Love. But I thought True Love was pulling away from her towards the end of that race. Brussels would be interesting, but he's a little bit frustrating. I thought he wasn't going to go, but actually they specifically said on the list when I was interviewing Ed O'Brien yesterday that Brussels is an intended runner, so that's interesting. I prefer Mission Central over him. There's a horse called Aspect Island, which I think most people will just have as an unconsidered rag, who's this James Owen fella coming over to America. He ranges from 12 to 25 to 1. I think he's a really interesting horse. He was beaten by Distant Storm, 9.25 lengths on debut. 9 individual horses behind Distant Storm have come out and won subsequently, including Constitution River, won a group race. Oxygen is going to run in the Futurity Stakes, has looked a decent prospect as well. That's an insanely hot maiden. I think Isaac Newton's a good horse. He might win a Group 1 this weekend. And suddenly he starts rolling. He bolts up in a nursery handicap at Yarmouth very impressively. I covered that race live on British radio that day. And then last time out, he was quietly backed from 50s into 20s just before the off for a Group 3 at Newmarket. And he stays on eye-catchingly behind Beckford's Folly and Brussels. He's way too big a price in relation to Brussels in this race. He probably isn't good enough to win it. We've seen some upsets in this race in the past. James Owen is a very talented trainer, and it's really interesting that he brings that horse over. So at a massive price, if things go his way, he could run a huge race. I'm interested in him, but True Love's going to take a lot of beating if Christophe Soumillon can get her to handle those turns.
Yeah, no doubt. True Love, clearly going to be your favorite right now. I think regardless of post position, that's going to be your post-time favorite. But, we saw last year, and we've seen time and again over the Del Mar turf course, the only thing that matters above all is saving ground. You can be the best horse.
Yeah.
If you go 2-3 wide around the turns and someone is going to skim the rail. Our friend Matthew DeSantis has a funny saying, no North American jockey stays on the rails. They turn for home. It can't happen. Death, taxes, and the rail is wide open. I guarantee you, not guarantee, the odds are 3 to 5 that both of the turf sprints, the juvenile, the filly, and the other turf sprint on Saturday are going to be won for horses on the inside. Horses are going to skim the rail. They'll tip out around that time where the turf chute is, and they'll try and get room. One of them is going to just be won by someone's just going to stay glued to the rail. We don't have Ryan Moore, who's still recovering from injury. He was kind of the guy. Auguste Rodin, that ride from a few years ago, is the one that's always prominent in my brain. The reason Auguste won that race because the American horse Up to the Mark should have and probably would have won that race had it not been for the brilliant ride Ryan Moore gave to Auguste Rodin.
If you remember, for some reason, was it Shearer came off the rail?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense why he did it. It's almost like Ryan said, "Get out of my way." He just did. That was a brilliant ride. And
Ryan Moore is, he's never afraid to take the rail. So, is there a jockey that you think much more about the jockey bookings of these horses coming over from Europe? Is there a jockey you think that is maybe has the balls of steel that Ryan Moore sort of has when it comes to taking those risks? We've seen William Buick, who's obviously a fantastic jockey, but he'll typically wheel the horses out, typical to how he has done with Yabir, and he's had great success doing it. But the 5 furlongs at Del Mar can be a little bit tricky with that.
Yeah, it can, and it's definitely a factor for Aidan O'Brien that Ryan's not going to be part of the team this year. It's a real shame that he's not going to be, because even the ride on Hit at a Bomb in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, I mean, we were all over that horse in the Final Furlong podcast, but how did he win? Because Ryan Moore was on board. Now, I think Christophe Soumillon is a brilliant jockey, and before Ryan Moore got that job, because I didn't think he was going to leave Sir Michael Stout, I wanted Christophe to get the job. So it's been really fun to watch him in action, and he's been so stylish. People are going to say he doesn't have the record that Ryan Moore has. Well, is that because he hasn't had the opportunity to partner with these Aidan O'Brien horses, and now he does? And he's riding with incredible levels of confidence. Like, he always has confidence, but really superb confidence now. Good luck to anybody who tries to get up his rail, or good luck to anybody that is trying to hold off the rail position when Christophe Soumillon is coming at them, because he's not going to give any quarter. Oisin Murphy famously is getting a little bit of stick from William Haggis for being maybe a little bit too flagrant with some of his riding tactics, but Oisin Murphy's a brilliant jockey. He's an incredible talent. He's the 5th time now he's been champion jockey in the United Kingdom. He won it in a hack canter. It's insane the level of effort that man puts in. So he'll have his horses well positioned. Soumillon, Murphy, Ross O'Ryan was really good last year. James Doyle as well. Obviously William Buick. These are the guys who are going to know pace, position, and exact time of when to strike. So we wanted to keep those guys on side. Colin Keane's big week for Colin Keane. How many live chances he's going to have is a bit of a question. He's going to ride John Quill in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but he comes into this on the back of a big win on Champions Day at Ascot. I think he needed that. He was saying Calpano was the one who needed it. I think Colin needed it, to be honest. He's a fantastic jockey, though, multiple Irish champion jockey. He deserves his position with Juddmonte. This is going to be a big Breeders' Cup for him as well. And obviously, he won at the Breeders' Cup last year. So he'll be a man coming in with confidence too. But Oisin Murphy, Christophe Soumillon, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, no, thank you for touching on all of the jockeys that you just did. And you brought up something really important. Confidence goes such a long way with the jockeys. So for Colin Keane to get that confidence boost going into a huge weekend like this, just a couple weekends ago at Champions Day up at Ascot, that's got to do a great deal for his momentum coming into here and just his confidence in general. So we'll leave it at that for the Juvenile Turf Sprint. We'll go on next to the Juvenile Fillies Turf rather. Last year, Lake Victoria was the goods through and through, and she won like it. She drew the rail. She drew very nicely that day. Won like a good thing, and she's clearly gone on to do well in her 3-year-old season. Now we have another one in Precise. You mentioned True Love did not enter into this Juvenile Fillies Turf race, I should say. Is it because of Precise? How do you view Precise, and is Precise really the goods similar to Lake Victoria, or is she beatable?
Well, Aidan O'Brien tends to have a very strong group of juvenile fillies. He did last year, obviously, as you mentioned, with Lake Victoria, who was probably the best juvenile he sent to the Breeders' Cup since Johannesburg, his first ever winner at the meeting, because she was coming in the back of 2 Group 1 wins. And he's doing the same thing again. We've got a dual Group 1 winner in Precise. She was beaten on debut. She's unbeaten in 4 starts, including a Goodwood Group 3, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the horse that was sent off favourite for that race was backed as though defeat was out of the question, Moon Target. Now, she's a little filly and she hasn't gone on. But the horse in behind, Frank the Form, she won the Mayhill at Doncaster. She then goes to the Moyglare Stakes. There was very little, according to the Coolmore team, there was little between Beautify, Composing, who was sent off favourite, who Christoph rode, and Precise on the day. Precise just flew down the outside of the track under Ronan Whelan. Great ride from him. He's an exciting jockey to look forward to. Really talented Irish jockey. That was a fantastic effort. That would have been enough for the season. Nope. Fillies Mile rolls out, crushes them. Absolutely crushed them. I think I was against her that day. I was siding with Composing. He was back from 16-1 into 4-1. Composing fell out the back of the telly, and Precise just laughed at them. She's the daughter of Star Spangled Banner. Aidan's going to send 2 of them to the meeting. Star Spangled Banner was a top-class sprinter in Australia who Coolmore bought, gave to Aidan O'Brien. He trained him to win what is now the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes at Royal Ascot over 6 furlongs, and then the July Cup. He came unstuck to Eddie Lynham's horse in the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes. Tried him at stud, failed, came back on the track, never really recaptured the form, and then the fertility issues were sorted out, and he's become a top stallion ever since. So victory for Star Spangled Banner progeny, especially after Wooten Bassett passed away, is going to be really, really important for Coolmore. And I think that might be one of the reasons why they've taken her to this race. Also, as Davy Lane pointed out in the Triple H Racing podcast, the 1,000 Guineas just isn't an important race to them anymore. And I think you're mad to be backing her for that race. Irish 1,000 Guineas, Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot, yeah, absolutely. Newmarket? No, not in recent years. I think Precise is a good thing, Ryan. If she gets the breaks, if she gets a good draw, she's way clear of this. On Racing Post ratings, for example, so our version of basically the buyer figures, 132 is her rating. The second highest is Beautify, non-runner, 125. Third highest is Ground Support, 124. They will not see which way Precise has gone. As long as she's settled in, she's okay, and she gets the breaks, she should just win.
I will say thank you for that. One thing about the Aidan O'Brien runners I've noticed is they come over. This is probably because he's the greatest trainer on planet Earth. As you mentioned, some of those Euros, when they come over, they break a little bit slow their first time out of the U.S. Starting gates. Aidan's he doesn't seem to have that problem. I assume that's attributed to his excellent training job that he does. But we'll see others, in pretty much every other European or Japanese or Australian trained that they bring over. Some of them tend to hesitate a little bit out of there. It's their first time getting out of the gates in the U.S. In the afternoons. Aidan's, for whatever reason, they're just trained and they're honed in. Whether they've been schooled so many times.
I can tell you exactly why. Because you're a young man. You're younger than me, so I was agreeing with you because my mind was remembering when Aidan O'Brien's horses would be very slow out of the stalls and it would cost them. They would lose in America. And the thing that amazes me about Aidan O'Brien is that he never stops. He's constantly adapting what he does and constantly changing. He's the best trainer in the world. He's the world record for 28 Group 1s in a single season and Grade 1s. And he's still changing and tweaking the system to be even better. It's like, dude, he's up in the gym at 4:30 in the morning. It's like, man, come on. I'm stumbling out of bed at 8:30 and can barely do it. They got the American stalls and they brought them to Ballydoyle. And they will bring those stalls to Dundalk, which is the only all-weather track in Ireland, so the synthetic surface there. And the horses have the bell ringing. So that was what was happening. Aidan realized that it wasn't the stalls themselves, it was the bell that was off-putting to his horses. So they have the bell, they have the exact starting gates that are used in America, and they use those to train these horses to get ready for America. But not only in their preparation for the Breeders' Cup, they would have been introduced to those as younger horses. So they are very quickly away from the gates. That's an astute observation to make, and that's because Aidan O'Brien leaves no stone unturned.
And that's why he is the greatest. And you mentioned 28 Group 1 wins. I think he's chasing that right now. If I remembered hearing you correctly from the previous show on HHH, and he's probably just going to keep trying to be better than he has ever been. And that's what makes somebody great, is they keep trying to be better. They never get complacent. Breeders' Cup weekend, there's a large tournament that goes on called the BCBC that I'm sure you've been made aware about. One of the large tournament players is this gentleman, Matt McJunkin. He's asking who is completing the exacta here. So Precise obviously is the goods. Who do you see rounding out that exacta?
I've got one for you that I don't think many people will have, and you're going to shoot the lights out, Matt, if I'm right about this. Valentina. So Valentina's trained by Donica. She wears the silks of Porta Fortuna. Donica O'Brien's a fantastic young trainer, obviously Aidan's son. He was a good jockey in his own right, a really good jockey in his own right, and has just turned into a fantastic trainer. He took over the old stable that David Watchman had. He's trained Fancy Blue to win 2 Group 1s, including a classic. Obviously, Porta Fortuna was wonderful as well. This horse was sent off favourite against the boys on her debut, which would be highly unusual, especially in Ireland. She then wins an Irish Guineas weekend. She's sent to Royal Ascot. She finishes 2.5 lengths off Venetian Sun, who goes on to win a Group 1. On her next start, won 3rd in the Albany Stakes. She gets within a short head of Green Spirit, who wins a Group 2 in her next start and gets within a length of Diamond Necklace, who might be better than Precise, according to Christophe Soumillon, and I kind of agree with him. She's a very special filly for Aidan O'Brien. Last time out, she bombs out. Can't explain it to you, except for the fact that the weather was awful, the rain was relentless, and she was held up off the pace on a speed-favouring track where the horses who were up at the pace were the ones who fought at the finish. Maybe the French run was just a little bit too soon for her. That was the 3rd of August. She bombs out on the 23rd of August. She's still in this race, and I think she's a very, very interesting filly. She's 33-1 on this side of the pond. She has the pedigree to go very well in this race. Her dam is it the dam is related to a horse who stayed at mile 4, or is it that she herself did it? The dam is an Aga Khan bred mare who was once raced. She's a sister to, thank you, Group 1 winner over a mile 4, or at least a group winner over a mile 4, and she's got a sister who won over a mile 4 as well. So stamina is not going to be an issue for her. 10 Sovereigns, I think, was dispatched by Coolmore, if I remember correctly, but they might get that horse. They might get that horse back, actually. Really like Valentina for the exotic purposes. Don't think she can beat Precise, but she could definitely chase her home.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I anticipate Valentina being a big price. I don't know what she is overseas right now, but I imagine it's probably going to be a pretty large price. Looking at the
33-1.
There we go. Probably going to get somewhere around that over here. Now, looking at the time form ratings, I don't recommend people do that and compare it to buyer speed figures, but I think they're still, you can use them as they relate to each other. Horse by horse that race over there. Something that I like to see that I want to ask you to see if maybe you agree or not. That race 2 back at Deauville was over the firm going. As we know, we're going to get firm conditions at Del Mar, as we always do, because it's 74 and sunny, 365 days a year. So do you think that's also going to play into some added ability for her being able to come over? She's definitely going to get that firm ground. Do you think that's what she prefers? I also was not sure what that waving black thing on the screen was. I thought it was like you had a feather to write with, like a quill. Turns out it's a cat, so that makes a lot more sense.
This is Winston. This is Winston the cat. He looks very regal, so we gave him a prime minister's name.
I like it.
Yeah, he's a lovely fella. He's a lovely fella.
I like it. I got 2 cats, but they're both sleeping in the sun right now, so they're not going to be as nice and come join me. But
they sleep 16 hours a day, just like me.
There we go. That's the dream, right? All right. So back to Valentina. That race 2 back in France in the Group 3 over the firm going. Do you think that's going to be ultimately what she prefers? And do you anticipate that she can take a step up from that effort?
Yeah, I would be amazed if the Curragh was actually good ground that day, because I was there and we were all drenched. And we've been sponsoring a couple of races at the Curragh this year, including one Aidan O'Brien one, which was a bit of fun. I don't think that was actually good ground at all. Whereas the race in Deauville, that probably was good ground. And more importantly, she was third at Royal Ascot on good to firm ground on just her third start. So good to firm ground should bring out the best in her, I would like to think. The fact that Dunica is going to stretch her out to the mile, I find very interesting as well. And that on pedigree, at least, should bring out improvement in her. So I'm hoping that people keep ignoring her and that then she runs a massive race for us and she boosts the exotics for us.
I would hope so too if I were you, because that is a massive price and a massive give. And I hope she does end up completing that, exacta for you on the big day. Something to point out, 10 Sovereigns has done very well in the U.S. with their runners. And No Nay Never, it's not No Nay Never. That's not the correct one. Oh, it is, for True Love. No Nay Never is also a very nice horse, although I'm looking at a horse that's going to be entered in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Precise Star Spangled Banner is the other one. They've all had a lot of U.S. success over the firm going. So I wouldn't anticipate any of that being a problem. Precise looks the goods. We don't have to talk too much about her anymore, and we can move on to the boys version, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Valentina, huge price given out underneath by Emmet Kennedy, and you can find him at Radio Emmet or at the Final Furlong podcast. I know myself and Charlie Freeman, we're looking forward to joining you next week. That is always fun. Charlie's Monday been night. Busy. Monday night, Charlie's been so busy. We've been missing Charlie. He just started law school, so he's obviously been tied up doing that. He'll come in the group chat every now and then, and he'll throw a one-liner out there. Or we were texting yesterday about coming on your show and how best to prepare and what we actually need to do to get ready. And we were just going back and forth. It's good to always hear from Charlie, and we're both excited to join you again. I don't think we've been on since the Saratoga show where I was trying to get kicked out in the paddock on Belmont Stakes weekend.
I forgot that. I forgot.
Just a guy doing his job.
I was getting annoyed. This man is so professional, so decent. He was so polite. I was getting annoyed on Ryan's behalf, and Ryan's like, no, it's okay. That man's just doing his job. I was like, who the hell is that guy? I'm not impressed.
I'd be lying if I didn't think otherwise, but I decided to, it wasn't my home track. I was a visitor at Saratoga, so I certainly minded my manners. But one more question from Matt McJunkin, not to distract from the Breeders' Cup discussion as we go through, but can you believe the Cox Plate card isn't available on any ADW, so any wagering platform that we have over here?
What? You can't bet on it? Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, isn't it? I love.
Can you bet on the Melbourne Cup?
We should be able to. And the Melbourne Cup is it this weekend or is it next weekend?
No, isn't it it's the day after, 2 days after the Breeders' Cup? Is it the Tuesday after the Breeders' Cup?
Okay,
that
sounds right. What was the show that you and I were on in the after hour session where we were on for maybe 2 hours and we watched?
It was the Breeders' Cup review.
Yes. It was perfect. Okay,
so on Howard's show, it's the 4th. Yeah, it is. It's the 4th of November, so it's right after the Breeders' Cup. So hopefully we'll be doing that show again. We'll repeat the dose.
That would be fantastic because that was one of the most entertaining after hour shows. That was when I knew that I gotta get Emmet Kennedy on my shows, multiple times a year, because that was the most entertaining. I can't believe that it wasn't live. It's probably for the best, but
don't ever release those tapes. Those tapes.
Those tapes are gone just along with the 24-hour stream. It's never to be found again. We'll never see it. So we'll keep things moving. Race 10 on Juvenile Friday is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. A lot of Euros in here as well. A lot of overseas participation. Who stuck out to you? I don't know that any Americans have a stronghold in this race. You guys typically dominate. So where are you leaning?
Aidan O'Brien going for 4th consecutive win. I think he's won it 7 times before, so obviously he's the starting point, and he runs Stad. I was saying this to Howard earlier on. I kind of feel like Stad has become a super sub unintentionally because there's been quite a few Aidan O'Brien horses that have been injured. They consider Albert Einstein to be a flying machine, but he hasn't run since before his prep race for Royal Ascot. Charles Darwin hasn't run since Royal Ascot. Constitution River has been off since winning the Futurity Stakes, not the Group 1 Futurity tomorrow, the Irish Futurity. And he looks like a very exciting horse as well. There's a number of others too that, for whatever reason, it's just been a tough season for Coolmore with their 22 Group 1 wins for Aidan O'Brien. And by the way, that's probably going to be 25 by the time the weekend is over, because he's almost certainly going to win the Futurity at Doncaster. And there's 2 Group 1 wins where I think he has at least 3 runners in both of them at St. Cloud. And he's got a great record in both of the Group 1s. One's over a mile, one's over 10 furlongs. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Aidan O'Brien isn't on 25 Group 1 wins by by Sunday, shall we say. So Stad is going to be a very strong favorite here. He's even money on our side of the pond. And look, it makes sense. He beat True Love on debut. She obviously goes on to win the Queen Mary Stakes the day after he had won the Coventry Stakes at Royal Ascot. He came up the centre of the track. There was a big conversation at Royal Ascot about draw bias on the far side and then a draw bias in the centre. Didn't matter to him. He just came up the centre of the track and murdered everything. And that form has worked out reasonably well. He then misses the Phoenix Stakes at the Curragh. That was his intended run. True Love subs in for him. He comes out with, I think, a fever. So by the time he gets to the Prix-Morny in Deauville, Venetian Sun has not only beaten Valentina in the Prix-Morny, but she's also had another run in between. So she's fully race fit with no side effects, and she gets the weight allowance. He has missed his intended prep race for it. He only goes down by a short neck. Then they run him in the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes, which is a race Aidan O'Brien's got a great record in. At the Curragh, that's his first run over 7 furlongs. He gets beaten by Zavateri, which I'm sure they were disappointed about at the time, but that was Zavateri's 4th consecutive win. He's the first horse since Ivawood to win. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, sorry. Zavateri is the first horse since Ivawood to win the July Stakes in the back of only one run, and that horse is back in 2014. He's the first horse since Olympic Glory to win the Vintage Stakes carrying a penalty, and that's a horse going back to 2012. And then he comes off the pace in the speed favouring track to win the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes. Stad turns the form around with him in the Dewhurst. He finishes second, but in front of Zavateri, who finishes 4th. Zavateri hated the track that day, didn't like the undulations, didn't like the dip at all, didn't run his race. Good horse, Zavateri. He'll win more Group 1s next season, I think. So I think Stad has got very good form to his name and genuine excuses. Perfect excuse for France. Genuine excuse against Zavateri, who's an exciting horse. And then last time out against Guan, disappointing he was beaten. Guan was a big price for Andrew Balding, but he was really good in the Acomb Stakes at York and then just probably didn't handle soft ground when he bombed out and ran a race that was too bad to be true in the Champagne. The horse who won that race has gone on to win the Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère, the Group 1, Puerto Rico. So it's not like that's bad form at all. There's a problem with Stad, I think, Ryan. Yes. I think he's too free. He's a little bit too keen. And it's going to take Christophe Soumillon's brilliance to get him to settle and then also to handle the tight turning tracks. So I'm not so sure he's as nimble. He's definitely not as nimble as Henri Matisse is, was now that he's been retired. So he probably wins an all-known form. He probably wins this race. He's an Aidan O'Brien horse. Aidan O'Brien crushes everybody in this race. But there's a horse in this race who is 8-1 on this side of the pond. He might be the nap of the meeting. Humidity. I really like this horse. He's a son of Ulysses. Ulysses did all of his best work as a 4-year-old. And he was a middle distance horse, 10 furlongs, 12 furlongs. Highly unusual for a Ulysses to win first time out over 6 furlongs. Extremely unusual, in fact. But that's what he did. And that race was super strong. He beats Title Roll, a Coolmore horse, actually, but for the Crisfords. He hadn't run until a couple of weeks ago when he bolted up in the all-weather. Sirius A has come out and won races. Christopher has run well. Keeps bumping into good horses. Morris Dancer came out and won the listed Stonehenge Stakes and was second to Zavateri in the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood. Words of Truth has come out and won the Mill Reef Stakes and was then beaten by Mission Central on Champions Day. Domination has got races to his name. Do or Do Not was placed in the Coventry behind Stad. That form has worked out exceptionally well. He then goes to the Chesham Stakes. He's bought by Watman Racing, and sometimes that's not a big story. They bought him from Cheveley Park. Cheveley Park are one of the biggest owner-breeder operations in the world. It's going to take an enormous amount of money to prize a racehorse away from them, particularly a potential stallion. Lucky for them, it was the Crown Prince of Qatar who comes along, and they're not stuck for a few quid. So they must have paid a fortune to get this horse. He then goes to Goodwood. He was replicating his brother, Holloway Boy, who won the Chesham Stakes on debut, rather extraordinarily. And Holloway Boy went to the Vintage Stakes. He finished second. Humidity, unlike his brother, hated Goodwood. Absolutely hated it. Didn't like the track at all. Still got within 3.5 lengths of Zavateri and Morris Dancer, who wins the listed race next time out. Super unlucky on his next start at Sandown. He suffers significant interference, so much so he's promoted to second place. But that interference cost him the win, in my opinion. I think he should have won the Slough Stakes to Group 3. And then last time out, he stepped up to Group 2 company. He finishes in front of Action, who's a brother by Frankel to Aidan O'Brien's Dual Derby winner Lambourne this season. And I think he had no chance with the winner, because I think the winner, Bo Echo, he's unbeaten in 3 starts for George Bowie. I think he'll win the 2,000 guineas next season. He looks like an absolute monster. That's a huge run from Humidity. He's got genuine excuses for his defeats. He'll love good to firm ground. He will stay the mile. He's tactically versatile. He can be on the front end. James Doyle can burst out, get to the lead, and make all if he wants. I think he'll probably press the leader. He won't be stopping. And wherever Stad is, he'll be right there. And he will stay, whereas Stad might be just a little bit too free. So maybe this is really simple. Precise and Stad, they just win, and it's as simple as that. But I think Humidity is too big a price today to 1, and I'm going to back him.
Thank you for that. Excellent reasoning. I'd love to dive into that real quick. I think Precise, everything that I've heard, she sounds like the goods. She's lock for me. You know, I don't love saying lock with 2-year-old fillies or 2-year-olds of any kind.
Don't complicate your mind, Ryan. It's over. Yeah. She wins.
When they're Euros, Lake Victoria proved it last year. They've been proven in the past. It's not a concern for me. This race, you mentioned something about Stad, and that 3 second-place finishes, all as heavy favorites. And there were some excuses in there. But regardless, you have 3 straight races for this horse where he has failed as the favorite, and he's supposed to be, you know, this pretty solid animal. Not saying he's not. Finishing second in those races, Zavateri had won multiple in a row, Venetian Sun, and Gawan, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
You know, you gave them some respect in how they beat him, but I think regardless, the favorite as the betting public still lost that race, still disappointed, and not 1, not 2, but 3 in a row. And those were Group 1s. So 2-year-old, again, willing to excuse it, but it sounds like Stad's going to be a pretty short price. And everything you gave on Humidity sounds much more confidence building. Those are 3 very logical and very reasonable excuses that you gave to a horse who is not the favorite in any of those 3. The horse or the race rather, where he was bet down the most, finished 3rd by a head, and then lost by a length at 10-1 to a horse named Bo Echo, who you said is 3 for 3, undefeated, and is likely a 3-year-old classic winner over at your side of the pond. So that to me screams Humidity. And I'm off of Stad now. Maybe it is that simple and they win. Something tells me that horse is going to be too short of a price for me to want to put a bunch of money on. And Humidity might be that right price. Probably going to get bet at the USA windows a little bit if people do this kind of work. And if people have listened to this show and the HHH Racing podcast and the Final Furlong podcast, available on all good podcast platforms and some crappy ones too, is I believe what you said. So that being said, Humidity seems like that kind of play of a 2-year-old that can step right up into this competition. And you mentioned something really important. Stad might be a little bit too free, maybe not want to go this distance, whereas Humidity is going to stay that distance, is bred for it, is bred to love it, and is probably bred to even go longer if I heard you correctly. So all that to be said, I think Humidity seems like a very logical play after all of your explaining in there.
I will say that the performance ratings will tell you there's a big gap here. So just on the adjusted Racing Post ratings, which we use a lot, Stad is rated 135, Humidity is rated 126. On time form, Humidity has a rating of 107, Stad has a rating of 116. Okay, there's a big difference there. On official ratings, the official handicapper in Britain rates him 103 Humidity for his second to Bo Echo, where he gives Stad a rating of 117. So Humidity on those metrics has got something to find. On top speed, on the speed figures, which would be more like the buyer figures, I guess, 127 Stad, 122 Humidity. But I think all of this requires just a little bit of context, and that is Humidity probably should have won at Sandown, and that gives him a higher rating, and I don't think he had a chance against Bo Echo. And that form may very well have been boosted by action in the Futurity Stakes, depending on how he handles the ground tomorrow with Wayne Lordan riding him, which means he's actually the second string, but he's priced like he's the third string, if that makes sense to you.
Yes.
There's just enough of a doubt there. Look, Stad, in a normal Breeders' Cup juvenile turf, this is very simple and it's very boring. I'm saying, yeah, Precise is a lock and so is Stad. This isn't a normal Breeders' Cup juvenile turf because normally you don't have 2 horses the caliber of Stad and Humidity. And with a lot of upside for Humidity, I'll take the 8-1 about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about the upside, especially for 2-year-olds. And you mentioned some difference in the form ratings there. 2-year-olds can make that up. And I think on top speed figures is what you said. It was it 126 to 122? Did I hear?
Yeah, 127 to 122.
So that 127 for Stad is going shorter, and the 122 is going, the mile. And typically, again, with the Euros, you can add a little bit of distance. 7 furlongs kind of equal to a mile equal to a mile and an eighth. You can add about a furlong, maybe a furlong and a half, just because the surface that they run on over there is vastly different than the basically the putting green that we run on here. On this side, you guys are in like the deep rough, sometimes even more a bog. Your good listed turf courses would be off the turf in the U.S. So, it's apples to oranges in terms of that, but that's kind of why you can add that added distance. So maybe a mile for Stade is no problem, but I know a mile is not going to be a problem for humidity. So I'm with you. I would like to take that upside as well. And you've sold me on taking that runner. That was good to firm ground. The humidity. So humidity is coming into this in the back of a career best effort, but also on good to firm ground at new markets, which you would hope would then set him up very nicely for this contest. You certainly would hope that. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm all in on humidity now. I'm going to keep doing obviously my deep dive as we get closer, but best believe there's many shout outs coming if humidity gets the job done on Breeders' Cup Friday. We're going to move on to Breeders' Cup Saturday as we keep going. And you mentioned, or maybe you didn't mention, but I want to ask you to see if you've heard they're introducing something in the U.S. The first races are going to be at Santa Anita coming up of a rating system similar to the ones they have in like Japan and Hong Kong. I don't know if you've seen this. It's kind of been on Twitter a little bit. It died off maybe a little bit in the past couple of weeks, but I believe this Sunday are the first carded races. It's a new system, so they're going to roll it out. They're going to try it and, work out the kinks as they do. But what are your overall thoughts on that sort of rating system coming to the United States?
What is this now? What are they going to do?
So similar to how they have races, based on rating in Hong Kong and whatnot, they're going to try that form over here, where instead of, the claiming non-two lifers or, I think maiden races might stay the same, or optional claimers or allowance races, I think we're going to go to, you have ratings and a rating system now.
Oh, so a horse that has a specific rating can run, but if you don't have the rating, you can't get in.
I believe so. That's my understanding. I think the rating system that's been released is maybe a little broken right now, maybe not, ready for public release, but they released it nonetheless. And Santa Anita is going to try it out this Sunday. So I'm very intrigued to see how that works out.
Okay. We don't tend to do that over here, but right. Hey, I'm always up for something different, something new. Let's see how it plays. That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
I like it. All right, I'm trying to get the past performances to load for Saturday, but we'll just kind of lead into it as it's coming along shortly. I can see my frame rate for whatever reason went to absolute shit in the past couple minutes.
Well, I can tell you right now, if we're going to talk about the 741, the pre-vegan Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, if you don't win this, Ryan, if you do not have a sprinter stateside that can win this race, then your sprinters are worse than ours, and our sprinters are the worst on the planet. This is a horrible race, and our sprinters are absolute muck, so I'm hoping AG Bullet just murders them because, my goodness, they're all awful. What a terrible division.
Now, throwing back to last year, how would you say the sprinters last year compared to this year? Because obviously last year we blew up the board with Starlust, and that was a horse that I somehow landed on. I still am not 100% sure how that ended up happening, but nonetheless, how do you think the field stacks up this year compared to last year?
I need to remind myself of last year. Wasn't there a horse last year that had run in Kentucky Downs and everyone was Cogburn. Yeah, they're all raving about him. Yeah, it didn't work out. Big Evs was a good horse. Big Evs. Bradsell ran. Yeah, Bradsell. I don't know why Bradsell. Was Bradsell? Did he just completely blow out, or did he? Yeah, he blew out. So Bradsell, if they'd kept him in training, would have just murdered everything this season. Everything. Probably a mistake to retire him, but hey, maybe they're making fortunes of him at stud. They're awful, Ryan. It's an awful division. Okay. They're absolute crap. There's handicappers. Not one, several handicappers. Long-term handicappers have gone and won Group 1s. Well done to American Affair. Shout out to JM Jungle for your King George win in Group 2 company. Shout out to Chagrin, who I put up on the Final Furlong podcast at 20-1. What was my logical reasoning? Because he had handicap form with American Affair and JM Jungle, and that was going to be enough to win the listed Beverly Bullet. And it was! That's how terrible they are. They're absolute trash. Asafor is considered by some Australian pundits to not be in the top 10 of the Australian sprinters. She's a 3-time European Group 1 winner, including 2 Group 1s this season in Britain and in France. The French don't even have them. It's an awful, awful division. They all keep beating one another. As for ours, that's what you want, not a rant. Arizona Blaze would be probably the best of ours, and at least he's got American form to his name, having been second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and he's better than the horse who won that race. I don't know what went on that day because last year's winner didn't train on at all, really. But Arizona Blaze comes into this in the back of a career best effort. They ran 2 horses in the Flying 5 on Irish Champions Weekend at the Curragh. Both horses, it looks like, are going to reoppose. Although Buccaneer Forte bizarrely has the mile as an option. He wouldn't stay the mile on a horse box. I don't know what the hell they're doing there. But David Egan chose him over Buccaneer Forte, and he was right. Arizona Blaze won. He was sent off favourite for the Coolmore Nunthorpe Stakes at York. Blew out, as they all do. Prior to that, he'd been very good at the Curragh. The concern I would have at Arizona Blaze is he's just a Curragh specialist, but at least he ran well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint last year. I just don't want to back him at a single-figure price. I don't want to back any of these. You do understand that last week on British Champions Day, it's in the name is in the title, right? The clue is in the name. It's Champions Day. This is the best of the best. 200 to 1. The horse had beaten 1 horse home all season, and he was still beaten 10 lengths. And he comes out and wins the Champion Sprint. The July Cup went to a 66 to 1 shot. The Commonwealth Cup was won by a 33 to 1 shot. They're all muck. So if we beat you in this race, I will take no pleasure in it, and I would be shocked if you don't have something that just outguns us, and I'm hoping it's AG Bullet.
Okay, well, there we go. That's if that's not a vote of confidence for U.S. runners, I don't know what is. Let's talk about AG Bullet, or I guess the technical name is Silver Bullet, is what they're saying, because AG is silver on the periodic table. So they've called her Silver Bullet. So, whatever you want to do. You know, she is a gray mare. Whatever. AG, it's not Ag Bullet. That's the only one that's incorrect. But to talk about her, I wonder about her a little bit. She's a very talented horse, and she does, she has the speed. 5 furlong speed is maybe a little bit of a question. We saw last year she showed a completely new tactic. She came from lengths off of the pace, which is something she had not successfully done really ever in her career. And she only lost by a neck to Starlust and Motorious. Something I want to point out, Starlust, Motorious, and Silver Bullet, all 3 of those runners in last year's event hugged the rail for, if not the entire race, most of it. Starlust came through on the rail to win. Silver Bullet and Motorious both stayed on the rail as long as humanly possible before tipping out, and they just missed by, you can see a head and a neck. Arizona Blaze last year, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, second place finisher. Magnum Force came up the rail. Arizona Blaze was in the same place, staying against the rail, and Governor Sam drew wide that day, but cleared off under Paco Lopez, went right to the rail, and that was that, held on for third. Saving ground at Del Mar, again, is kind of paramount to everything else. You can see the price that Arizona Blaze was last year at 27 to 1. Magnum Force was a bit of a price. Governor Sam was a bit of a price. And then last year, obviously, Starlust blew up the board at, 30, 40 to 1, whatever that ended up being. All that to say, I think a lot of this comes down to the draw. Hearing that there's no good European sprinters coming in, I still don't think that means it's out of the question that a Euro can win this, just because death, taxes, and American jockeys leave the rail open. So if one of those jockeys just saves enough ground, I think they can absolutely get the job done, because it's more of a story of trips than it is actual talent going the 5 furlongs at Del Mar. Silver Bullet, again, the only time going the flat 5 furlongs was in last year's Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, where finished a really nice third. So I think if he can replicate that, can replicate that same run style, I think that's going to set her up for some success, because whoever is on her back on next Saturday is going to have that same kind of tactic of just saving ground. It's no secret. It's just a matter of draw and a matter of getting that position. Some other horses that I think it's important to talk about. You mentioned Arizona Blaze is probably being the best shot coming over from your part of the land. You do have Bear River. I don't give Bear River much of a chance at all.
No chance.
The Kentucky Downs angle coming to the Breeders' Cup is awful. This horse, Bring the Band Home, was going to be your favorite coming in here off of the victory in the Troy, then went up to Woodbine and just shit the bed. that horse had absolutely zero excuse to lose that race, and not only lost the races at odds on, but basically was eased towards the end of that race. Just got passed, got ran by, got completely defeated, and I don't really know the reason for it. Came back, about 15 days later and worked a really sharp work, which tells me that nothing went wrong with the horse. Obviously, Bring the Band Home has entered right back in here. He is a complete toss for me off that last effort. That just shows that she can't be trusted. And Saratoga has a knack for being that kind of course that horses seem to really love it or they really hate it. This horse's 3 best buyer speed figures have come going 5.5 at Saratoga. 2 this summer with 109 and 105. And then you go back to last August going 5.5, and the optional claimer ran a 95 and pretty much blew the doors off that field over a horse named 26 Black, who's very talented in his own right. So I think this might be a Saratoga special type horse. I'm against Bring the Band Home, but Bring the Band Home does influence a lot, or bring a lot of speed into this. Bucanero Fuerte, I believe you mentioned this in your rundown of the muck that is the sprinters from overseas. Do you give this one any remote shot? This is one that I kind of kept getting attracted to, but I would imagine you're probably against this one as well.
Oh, just because I really dislike the sprinters. I mean, if you've been here, Ryan, I just burst into hysterical laughter when Powerful Glory won the sprint. I burst into uncontrollable hysterical laughter. Like, what a horrible division. At least this guy's 10-1, and he is coming into this on the back of a Group 3 win at the Curragh, and he's a length and a quarter off Arizona Blaze last time out in a Group 1. Colin Keane rode him that day, as I said. David Egan, whose first jockey Tamil Racing, so had the choice. He chose right in Arizona Blaze. That tells me there's more to come from Arizona Blaze. And the fact that Arizona Blaze was sent off 92 favourite for the Coolmore Nunthorpe in Group 1 as well would also suggest there's a bit more there. Bucanero Forte is fine. These Wootton Bassets keep winning. We're all Wootton Bassett who's passed away, but every time you look up, there's another Wootton Bassett winning. So, and they're winning at all trips as well. They're winning St. Ledger's over a mile 6 and 5 furlong sprint races. So phenomenal stallion, and there's still 3 generations of his progeny to come. So I wouldn't underestimate him. I also wouldn't underestimate, shout out to your boy, Frankie Dettori. I know you're such a huge hardcore. Charlie, your boy, Frankie Dettori. He did it again. Oh, I know you were so happy to see him blow up Kentucky Downs. I know you were so happy to see him destroy that track. Obviously, Frankie is going to be better suited to the undulating tracks that the American jockeys just don't understand. He does. But look, Kadem is a horse he gets on well with. I'm talking about a 9-year-old sprinter. I'm talking about a 9-year-old sprinter at the Breeders' Cup and giving him a shot. And he does have a shot. Charlie Hills won a Group 1 on Champions Day with 100-1. There were 2. There was a 200-1 shot and a 100-1 winner, both in Group 1s. Champions Day. Kadem is a good horse. He's a horse that can just spectacularly blow out, as in, I don't fancy it. Don't feel like it today. Or he can go win Group 1 sprints at Royal Ascot at 80-1 and crush everybody. He shouldn't be underestimated. If he gets a low draw and Frankie's on a going day, which he will be for the Breeders' Cup, then he could outrun his odds, and he's a double figure price on this side of the pond. So I'm genuinely interested in him, but I should say that Adam Mills from Total Performance Data, when I said this to him, he knew I hadn't said Kadem yet. He knew I was about to say Kadem. He's like, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. I'm starting to come around to the idea that he could run a big race, but I really want to be with the Americans. So the question I have for you is, which of the Americans, drawn low, is going to be best suited to this race?
I'll do you one better. First, let me touch on Kadem. I had him last time at Keeneland. In his win, I thought he was due. I thought there was enough speed. That was great. That being said, I absolutely hate him at 5 furlongs. I do not think it's long enough. I heard
stretch run's going to be too short, isn't it?
Well, so I heard that on the Davey Lane podcast, and I don't entirely disagree. That's just not the reason I don't like him. I just think 5 furlongs the distance, even if the whole thing was a straightaway. I don't know that it's his preferred distance. He's going to have to get that pace. He's going to have to get the 5 furlong pace and hope it falls apart. I think he got that last time going 5.5, and I don't think you're going to get that going 5 on the biggest stage on the biggest day. So while I think Kadem could probably finish in the money, and I think Frankie Dettori, if he draws the 1, 2, or 3, I think that ups his chances, and I would even include him on some of those tickets as a win candidate if that were the case. But again, I think 5 furlongs is maybe a touch too short. The horse that loves 5 furlongs is this horse. This is the American one I want to give a shout to. And I would go as far as to say, regardless of where this horse is drawn, he's going to be an A on my tickets. Motorius loves Del Mar. He's run here 5 times, 4 wins and a second. All 4 of those wins came over this turf course going 5 furlongs, which is the only sprint distance we run. It is absolutely his backyard. It's his playground, and Phil D'Amato, who is the best turf trainer over here. Now, respectfully, he can't hold a candle to Aiden O'Brien or Charlie Appleby or the Euro trainers. But as far as West Coast training goes and U.S. training in general, he's one of the best that we have. And he knows how to get a horse ready. He knows how to point towards that date. And if you look through his running lines, you can see kind of the same 5 races that he runs every year. And that's kind of the schedule that they have. He runs in the turf sprint at Churchill Downs. Then he'll go back in the summer at the Green Flash. Then he'll go right into the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Rinse and repeat. He did the Turf Sprint again last year, and then he went to the Green Flash, to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Since then, he's actually had a quite busy season for him with 2 races in between that and the Green Flash. Came out in the Green Flash. He got put up via DQ over Reef Runner, who did definitely interfere with him. Matorius, he's going to drop to the back, and he's going to make that one run. I trust Freysu enough that he's going to hug the rail. Freysu is one of the few American guys. Freysu and Hector Barrios, those are the 2 that I want, that I trust to not always, not only not abandon the rail coming for home, but they will stick to the rail and they will come through and they will make it happen. So Antonio Freysu, I think, going the 5 furlongs on Matorius, a horse that he obviously knows very well. This is a must use in my opinion. I would prefer that he draws in the 1 through 4, but even if he draws post 10, he is going to drop to the back. He's going to be able to save that ground. He'll make that one run. So Matorius is it for me. And Matt McJunkin had to wait a little while for this, but here comes the Matorius shout out. I'm also a West Coast guy. I love the horse, but this is not the strongest rendition of this race. So I think it is right for a horse like Matorius, who always fires his best shot.
Let me tell you the influence of Ryan Anderson, folks, of the Gallop Out. Loyal viewers to this influential podcast. I was looking at the betting for this just yesterday, and AG Bullet was the clear favorite. And I was thinking, well, I'm just going to put her in some scumbag multiple that's going to pay an absolute fortune. And I kept seeing Matorius and was thinking, yeah, got to ask Ryan about that horse. Didn't expect you to go on that epic monologue. And since you started talking, favorite.
Really?
Slashed across the board. Was second favorite, is now suddenly 7-2, 3-1, 4-1, 7-2 with all the firms. So,
hey, well, that's the influence of the Gallop Out right there. So I'm only joking, but no, he's going to be a deserving favorite. I don't know the end all price that we're going to get on Matorius come game day. I don't want to take less than 2-1. I don't think he's going to be less than 2-1, but turf sprints are so volatile. Obviously, you just spoke to British Championship Day or British Champions Day, 200-1 and 100-1, and bombs all over the place. We don't really have that standout turf sprinter either, so that's not something that I want to really take a large bet on a short price. But if you look at those past 2 workouts this horse has had as well, 2 straight bullets up at Santa Anita, going that 5 furlong distance. Again, this horse is just sitting on go. He knows his job. He knows his task. I don't care that he's 7 years old. Phil D'Amato trains these older horses going, whatever distance they need to, and he has them ready. Gold Phoenix is an old man. He just won his 4th straight Del Mar handicap over the summer. This horse, Matorius, has won 3 straight Green Flashes, which is the grade 3-5 furlong that I mentioned at Del Mar. He knows how to get him going at Del Mar. This is his backyard. It's Matorius on top for me. There are some other horses that are interesting. None Hudson is not one of them. No Balls I wanted to like a lot, but his form has not really bounced back. This 6-year-old gelding, which best name of a horse
that absolutely,
I could ever think of. That's the one for sure. But moving on, I thought Puro Magic maybe had an outside shot. I thought this one was a little bit interesting. Ran at Maidan earlier this year, ran 5th behind Believing, who Believing was entered in this race last year. I don't believe he ran. I believe that was the horse that refused to step onto the track. If I'm not mistaken,
yes,
there was a horse in the turf sprint. Was it Believing? Okay,
yeah, Believing
it was either Believing
out.
or Big Evs. It was one of the 2.
Believing was scratched. Big Evs was battered.
Yes, that was what it was. So it was Believing who just refused to run that day. But Believing was relatively backed in that race. I don't think it was anywhere close to the favorite, but Pure Magic. The Japanese runners have really sent over trainers, I should say, have really sent over a strong contingent year after year. And Del Mar, they enjoy more just because it's less of an intense ship. It's just across the sea, and then you pretty much land and you're in San Diego. You don't have to go to Kentucky or all the way to New York. So for that reason, I feel like the Japanese horses maybe run a little better out here. Maybe that's my West Coast bias talking, but I thought this one deserved a chance. I know we're going to get the best effort, and again, if this one draws well, I think this one has a chance. I don't know how familiar you are with Puro Magic.
Not very, but is it Satona Rev was the horse who was second to Lazat at Royal Ascot? I'm kind of surprised that Japanese horse hasn't come over. I'm also just really surprised that some of the Australians haven't. I know that they wanted to run Asaphora and she wins a win in your in race, but it turns out not qualified because of your pedigree. So cheerio, Australians. I think they could have paid to get her into the race, but it wasn't enough. They weren't incentivized to do that. So it's kind of mad. But hey, it's the Breeders' Cup, so we're going to play by their rules. I'm really surprised there isn't an Australian horse here because
me too.
They would just laugh at this lot.
Yeah, they would, and they'd run circles around them. Selfishly speaking, I wish we saw Kaying Rising over here. They're not going to come over here.
Oh, man. Bring him to Royal Ascot. He will destroy them.
That horse could walk. The horse would canter. I mean, it would be phenomenal to see that runner outside. I guess he did just run in Australia, but bring him over here.
But he wins it ease down, Ryan. Ease down. He wins in the face of the Aussies booing him. He's like, "Yeah, I'll show you."
Exactly. I'm. I had right when I got into racing was 2019, and that was pretty much right at the end of Winx's career. And one of the first kind of memories I had was I was watching TVG, and it was Bob Baffert being interviewed, and he was like, "Yeah, well, I got to have a late night tonight. I got to stay up till 2 a.m. Got to watch Winx. It's her last race." And I was like, "Who the hell is staying up till 2 a.m. to watch a race in Australia? Like, what do we do?" And then maybe 2 months later, there I was betting on a Wednesday at Hong Kong Happy Valley. And
yes.
And ever since then, obviously
I've degenerates for the win.
That's right. And I familiarized myself with Winx and all of the greats. But Kaying Rising is kind of that great, that must-see horse that you have to tune in and watch. He dances every dance. He runs so impressively. I mean, there's just never a doubt when he gets his mind on racing, when they turn for home and he sees the wire and he sees the horses in front of him, he's running by them all. So all that to say, I wish he was out here. He's not. Next horse I want to talk about after that tangent, Reef Runner, I thought deserved an outside chance here. And that probably sounds ridiculous. That last win in the 6.5 Eddie D, the speed figure is very high. That's very impressive. The 6.5 with the asterisk at Santa Anita is down a hill. It's a very weird turf course. You have a whole right-hand turn. You have a wide left turn that goes over the dirt course. It's a very unique setup, even unique to like Kentucky Downs and the way that they run. So I don't know that I want to trust the 100 speed figure entirely, but this is another one where if he draws well towards the inside, he can absolutely skim the rail and come up. And that's exactly what happened in the Green Flash. Before he got DQ'd, he had a picture-perfect ride after that by Paco Lopez, who is currently serving a 6-month suspension for being an asshole towards a horse. So it's rightfully deserved. But that being said,
was that the steward's? Was that the steward's reasoning? You were an asshole to a horse, so you were banned for 6 months?
No. So the full issue was that he was caught on video after a race. Well, like immediately after the race. They're on the Gallop Out, not the racing channel of the race. And he had like bashed his horse in the head with the crop, like the head and the neck area on TV. So he got, suspended. He appealed and he was able to come back under certain provisions. And then he violated the high.
You're a disgrace. You're all in the bottom of the barrel now. Come out with that doctor statement.
Yeah, that soundbite does it complete justice.
Scum.
Allegedly. Scum of the earth. No, not allegedly. It's on video. No, absolute scum of the earth. And I wish that he never gets on the back of a horse again, whether in practice or in his backyard or in racing. I think he's a terrible person. He's bad for the game. We want to make the game better. U.S. especially, we've taken so many steps. HISA has been a really nice addition because it's a entire governing body, and I think it was a rough start, but anything is. But since then, they've gotten really consistent with it, and I think their rulings. While the crop rule, we could talk about that for an hour. It's a little bit arbitrary at times, like the rule of 6, no more than 6, they've said is like a random number. I don't agree with that. But all that to be said, having a governing body that is in charge of the entire body of horse racing is a good thing for racing. They've been consistent, and I hope that scumbag Paco never rides a horse again. So Reef Runner, I do think, has an outside look.
Tell us what you really... Come on now. Stop sitting on the fence. Tell us what you really think.
I'm never afraid to tell you what I really think. Reef Runner, he's really coming to his own out on the West Coast, to be fair. And he it's not like he was bad at Gulfstream Park, but he's one that I thought had a shot. She's quality, a European runner, and you've mentioned these have no chance. She's so spicy. Has to get better on the speed figures, but she's a threat to run them off their feet going 5 furlongs. She keeps getting better. She keeps improving, and Jose D'Angelo is no joke as a trainer. If you see Irad or Jose take this call, this horse is very, very live because they're going to have other options. Yellow card, probably not for me, but a horse that is also stepping up. We spent a little bit of time on the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, so we'll move on. We have 3 more races.
Which, by the way, I think is the worst race for us to spend time on, by the way. But you're right to do it because there's so many different horses to talk about and so many different form lines and stuff. I was going to ask you about She's So Spicy because they brought her over to Royal Ascot, which might have had more to do with the Qatar racing angle. But she was backed for the Commonwealth Cup. She was very quietly backed for that race, 16-1. I think we were covering that race live on TalkSport. I'm pretty sure she was 16s in the morning and goes off 10s. And obviously it doesn't happen for her. But she's bounced back with a 3-length win. But how does that form relate to this race in the context of a Grade 1?
I would say that, I mean, anytime you see connections of a U.S.-trained horse ship over to Ascot when it's not Wesley Ward, because he just does that. When it's not Wesley Ward, that means that, to me, they have a great deal of confidence in the horse, not only to handle the ship there, but to also handle it back and to try and, try their luck against the world's best sprinters because Royal Ascot's where they show up. Obviously, did not run great. Went off 10-1. As you said, Oisin Murphy was aboard that day. Didn't have the best start, I guess. You can see ducked left. I vaguely remember that from watching the race a while back. But I think the firm going and the true firm going out at Del Mar and the tracks that she's faced at Churchill Downs and then at Gulfstream Park especially, I think that's much, much more to her liking. So I think that, if you got the putting green over at Royal Ascot that we have over here, I think that's probably a different result in the race. I don't know that she wins, but I think she runs a lot better than 15th. But again, 5 furlongs at Del Mar, I do think is going to be right in her wheelhouse. And again, it's all going to come down to the draw. There are so many horses that could absolutely win this race. I think the draw is really going to tell the difference.
And Sheila Vusheen again.
Make the difference.
You'll be back on board.
Okay, that's good info. I wasn't sure who was going to be aboard She's So Spicy in this event, but Oisin Murphy going to be riding inside draw, and this horse is going to be on my tickets without a doubt. Let's go to the 1.5 mile Breeders' Cup Turf, where we have, again, a strong series of Euro contingents. This horse, El Cordobez, before I turn it over to you, after the Sword Dancer win, I was like, I can't wait for the Breeders' Cup Turf. And then I saw a million other horses win, and they all show up. This is a very tough running. We have to talk about the co-favorites first. Which is going to be Mini Hawk. And actually, you know what? I want to start with this horse. I want to start with Goliath. Because I know that you probably fancy this horse a little bit. So go ahead. I would love for you to share your thoughts on this German runner. So
if we had this conversation I would have prepped for it anyway. But if we had this conversation last week, I think I would have said, it's a straight shootout between Mini Hawk and Rebels Romance. And it's going to be who turns up best on the day. But when you actually really delve into it, Goliath gets a Racing Post rating. I'll just use them for reference. He gets an RPR of 124 for his Group 1 win last time out. Mini Hawk got the same rating for the Arc. Rebels Romance got 123 for the Grade 1 win. Now, the obvious point to make is, but Mini Hawk is the younger horse. She's the improving horse, and she'll have more scope for improvement as a 3-year-old filly. And Aidan O'Brien won this race with a 3-year-old filly and found, and he's this joint second winningmost trainer in Breeders' Cup history, blah, 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 blah. This horse is too big a price. He battered Rebels Romance in the King George last year, and Blue Stocking, who goes on to win the Arc. She finished second. In behind is also Auguste Rodin, who comes out to be second in the Irish Champion Stakes, beaten this much by the now retired Economics on the day. And on the back of that, they decided to run him. I think they ran him in France again. He wins. Then they go to Asia. And he gets within 3.5 lengths of Deduce and Shin Emperor, which on their day, both very talented horses. Hong Kong Vaz is a disaster. Just write it off for him. He comes back, wins on soft ground over 10 furlongs, then gets battered 40 lengths by his stable companion Calandigan. Probably they both would have gone to the King George because they're both geldings. So you have to remember they're limited to the races they can run him in. You got to rebuild him. You have to $1 million man stuff. You got to rebuild him on the back of that. They run him at Deauville. Watch the race back again today. he looks all set to win. Even though you know the result, he's going to bolt up and then suddenly folds like a cheap deck chair. First Look comes out and wins. But First Look then goes to Arc Weekend and wins a Group 2. And then last time out, they take him to Germany. Right after that race, by the way, in Deauville, that was over 10 furlongs on soft ground. Gaffard said, probably needed the run. We're going to go for a Group 1 in Germany, which they do, and he wins. Now, I understand people might look at that and go, yeah, German Group 1, like, who cares? Well, Gayeth won that race, and Torquato Tasso won that race. It's a bloody good race, the Grosser Pierre von Baden. I'm sorry to our German viewers and listeners. Straight is a pretty consistent horse. He's got some decent form to his name. But more significantly, Dubai Honor is a really solid horse. He's an old boy as well. He's a 7-year-old like Rebels Romance. But just at the weekend gone on Sunday afternoon, it's 2 very exciting horses. French horse called Yellow Jersey, who Oisin Murphy rode to be third, ran a blinder, but he'd been unbeaten prior to that. And more significantly, the horse who won, who beats Dubai Honor in almost a photo finish, is a horse called Convergent for Carl Burke, who's had a season of all seasons, to quote Jerry Hennon, Irish commentator. That horse really should have won the German Derby and then does win on Irish Champions Weekend over a mile 4 in Group 3 company, wins very easily, and meets his owner the next day for the second part of Irish Champions Weekend, which is at the Curragh. And I said, is Convergent going to go for the Breeders' Cup Turf? Because he looked like he'd be really suited to that. Instantly rules it out. No. But next year, for sure, we've got a race lined up for him. That was the race in France. He wins. Dubai Honor's second to him. So Dubai Honor's not getting any better, but he's a really solid horse. And I think those are 2 very exciting horses that you should be watching out for next season. Yellow Jersey for Andre Fabre, and for Carl Burke, Convergent. So the point I'm bringing that up is Goliath beats Dubai Honor. I think that form looks much better than it might have seemed to some people, and he gets the exact same Racing Post rating for that Group 1 win that Mini Hawk gets for the Arc. And yet Goliath, who's had a much quieter campaign and a 55-day layoff to come to the Breeders' Cup Turf with a career best effort on good to firm ground. He got a Racing Post rating of 127 for the King George, which is his best. That was an end-to-end gallop, that King George, and he exploded off it. He comes in off a 55-day break. He's 10-1 on this side of the pond. Mini Hawk comes into this on the back of finishing second in the Arc. Now, that's a blinding run. She's had an incredible season. She's won 4 Oaks, Chester, Epsom, the Curragh, York, 2 Classics, 3 Group 1s. She finishes 5 lengths clear of the rest in the Arc. She's beaten by an unexposed, beautifully bred horse in Darius. He's out of a Hong Kong Vase winner by the best Arc winner we've seen in See the Stars. Both horses will come back next season, both highly exciting. But she's even money. And she's had a hard campaign, Ryan. And I know Aidan O'Brien has talked about the Breeders' Cup Turf quite a bit, and I interviewed him. That podcast on the Final Furlong podcast will drop tomorrow. This has been the plan, but that was a hard race in the Arc. Now, Kalpana came out of the Arc and won the Filly and Mares race on Champions Day at Ascot, but Kalpana is in behind and eased down because she can't win, whereas Christophe Soumillon's having to give it everything because he's right there to go and win the race. Maybe she wins it. Different conditions, tight turning track, fast ground, hard race last time out. Goliath comes in fresh, same RPR. You're getting a double figure price about him. Way prefer him. Rebels Romance is probably the bet at 11-4 because, well, it's Rebels Romance. He's an absolute hero. Charlie Appleby's got a great record at the meeting. He's a dual winner of this race. He's going for his 3rd Breeders' Cup Turf win. He comes into it on the back of a wide margin Grade 1 win in America last time out. He's a German Group 1 winner this season. He's beaten this. Is it a similar distance by Goliath beats him in the King George last year. Calandigan, his table companion, beats him this year. Kalpana comes out and franks the form on Fillies and Mares race day. He beats Al Rifa in the Hardwick Stakes. Al Rifa goes unbeaten in 2 starts over a mile 6. The Michael John Kennedy Cup Group 2 at the Curragh, and then the Irish St. Ledger beating Amalok. Amalok probably went to the front too soon that day. He even carries a penalty to win over a mile 6, and he hated that distance, but he still went and won. But he's 11-4, and Goliath is 10-1, and Goliath battered him last year. So I have to back Goliath. I just have to. I will have something on Rebels Romance because I can't not. He's heart, rule, and head. And we'll play an exotic. And the exotic will be Amalok, who's faster than it looks and was beaten 4 lengths last time out. I'm not sure he stayed. And I think Ross Orion is a great jockey, but I don't think it was the best of rides. He went to the front very quickly, and Al Rifa just picks him up and laughs at him at the end. This will suit him better. He's won on good to firm ground at Ascot. The horse he beat came out and won the Royal Whip afterwards. So he's interesting. Rashabar maybe for the exotics. Davy Lane made a really compelling case for a horse who people in the comments were saying, yeah, he might finish a week after the race is run in Ethical Diamond. And like, what an unusual horse. He's a jumper. He's a national hunt horse. He's a hurdler. He was beaten in the county hurdle over 2 miles at Cheltenham, and then gets beaten in the Scottish champion hurdle. But since then, he's been a well-backed winner, sent off 3-1 favourite for a handicap at Royal Ascot, a pretty prestigious handicap at that. And then he wins the Ebor over a mile 6, which is Europe's richest handicap. That was off a mark of 104. He has miles to find, and I don't know who's going to ride him. It can't be Ryan Moore. He's injured. It can't be Willie Buick. He'll be on Rebels Romance. But Willie Mullins is not to be underestimated, and he might stay on. And this could be a pace collapse. Goliath is too big a price, so I'm going to have to back him, and I hope Rebels Romance wins. It's no shock if Mini Hawk goes and crushes them all.
That was a lot to dissect, and I'll do my best right now to go through that. For Goliath, we'll start with this runner. For whatever reason, I don't like this horse. I couldn't tell. You have much better reasons for liking this horse than I have for disliking the horse. And at 10-1 or the double-digit price that you're likely to get, I don't want to talk you off of it. This is just not a horse that, to me, is attractive to me as a U.S. runner. I don't know that he's going to love the firm going, and the fact that, again, maybe there are reasons for it, but the fact that John Stewart, who owns this horse after the private purchase, hasn't brought him over here, and he is a big proponent to bringing these European runners over, maybe tells me that he doesn't really like the firm going. Again, that might be reading too deep into it. Maybe there are reasons he hasn't brought him over sooner. But regardless, he was supplemented into this race, meaning that he did now want to get him over here. He didn't qualify his way to get here. So while he can win, and at 10-1 or double-digit price, I hope he wins for your sake, but he's not going to be on any of my tickets. I don't like this horse a whole lot.
He's a big boy. I'll say that. He's a very big boy.
That is the last part. Thank you. I almost forgot about that. But big boy going around the tight turns. I wonder about that maybe a little bit. Now, if he handles the tight turns, he's a big boy. He's got a big stride on him. He might be able to just outkick the rest based on his overall size. But regardless, I mean, yeah, aptly named for being Goliath. But regardless, I don't love him in this spot. I don't think that he's meant for it. To go to Mini Hawk as the next one. You mentioned that the Arc probably took a lot out of her, and rightfully so. That was a big race. Keep in mind this filly's only 3, and you were running against some very, very experienced runners. A 3-year-old facing older is a big angle to that a lot of sharp handicappers play against in the United States. And Sovereignty in the Breeders' Cup Classic is a 3-year-old facing olders for the first time. Now, Mini Hawk has faced olders before, in her last 2, in fact, in the Yorkshire Oaks, where she blew the doors off that field. And then last time out, didn't quite get the job done when losing by a head, but she's clearly passed that test. You mentioned the quick turnaround, and she was 5 lengths clear, along with Darius, of the rest of that field. To me, that they were throwing it down, going for home.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that maybe takes a little bit out of a horse. I've always thought when a horse runs and they have to use 100% and they just get up in the nick of time, or they just hold off a late charging rival and they're just game and they fight on, whatever else. I think that's using about 100% of that horse. When a horse digs in and locks eyes with another horse, similar to how these two did, and they battle and they kind of, they almost go into their own world where they're drawing away from the rest of that field because they are both competing against each other, that takes like 110%. And I think it's a huge vote of confidence that they come right back after just a handful of weeks to run in the Breeders' Cup. I think that's a big vote of confidence. And I think she's a very talented filly. That being said, I almost have to play against her just because I think the bounce factor is what we call it, but I think the bounce is a real possibility. I think that maybe took a lot out of her. I think she could take a couple steps back, and while she's very talented and she's never been out of the exacta, I don't expect her to, run up the track. Maybe she's running into some horses that are pointing here and have the correct amount of rest to get here. And that leads me to the horse that I'm going to be all over on Saturday. That's Rebels Romance. I was against this horse last year. No horse above the age of 5 had ever won the Breeders' Cup turf. Rebels Romance won it at 6, and then he's done nothing but win this year. I mean, obviously he has the couple losses. He finished 4th and 3rd, but he's done nothing but go back to his ways, and he's run nothing but really good races. And then he comes back in the Turf Classic at Belmont at the Big A that was a very firm turf course. They did not see a lot of rain until late September after this weekend. This horse romped. Frankie Dettori gave an excellent ride. They were going slow, and he just kind of took it to him early. He went up on the lead where Rebels Romance likes to be, but he doesn't have to be there. We saw last year in the Breeders' Cup, he sat a little bit off, and he's able to kind of rate that speed. We've seen before. He doesn't have to make all, and he doesn't have to take him wire to wire. He can kind of be placed wherever, and I think that's going to be the key. I hope he draws well because, again, saving ground is such a massive part. But last year he won from post 11, and he did it nicely. He opened up going down the stretch, and a horse like that with that amount of class, you're just not going to pass him when he has that kind of lead. It's just insurmountable. I know he only won by a neck over Rosham Park and Shariar. Both of those are very good horses, and they would be close to favoritism in here. If I'd have to refresh myself on their form, but I think they're both still doing rather well if they're still racing. But Rebels Romance, I gotta back him here. The two races on the firm ground that he has in his recent form are fantastic. He comes in here the right way, and this is Appleby's backyard. Appleby and Del Mar are like peanut butter and jelly, and I know Aiden O'Brien is pretty dominant in his own right, but I think without that top guy Ryan Moore, and you get the top guy in William Buick, I believe that might make the difference, because I think that, at least to my vantage point, Buick and Ryan Moore on American soil, it's tough to split them sometimes. I'd probably lean Ryan. I think he's the greatest jockey in all the land. But William Buick is very, very talented, and he knows how to ride the U.S. turf courses very well. And I think without that main competitor in Ryan Moore, I think that's kind of the final nail in the coffin, proverbially speaking, to get me to play all in pretty much on Rebels Romance. I'm pretty sure I'm going to single this horse. I want to keep doing my research, but in my pick fives and doubles and win bets, I hope I get second choice on this. I hope I get that 5-2 range somewhere around there. I'm going to be all over it.
That's the price we're getting over here. He's been cut from 11-4. Most of the firms have gone 5-2 about Rebels Romance. And look, maybe it is just simple. Maybe this is a really, really keep it simple, stupid. Rebels Romance is going to win. It's pretty extraordinary that a 7-year-old gelding can still be doing what he's doing. But then again, it's kind of not. We just don't see this very often, at least on our side. Like, you have a lot more geldings because, well, geldings can compete in the grade ones over there. We're not allowed to have them in the Derby. There are 3-year-olds then, but they're not allowed to compete in the Arc either. Which, given the fact that Clandigan just bolted up in the Champion Stakes, is probably a conversation for another day. But I love him. I love him. And that stat is really powerful. Like, sometimes statistics don't really mean a whole lot. It's over 50 horses had tried at the age of 6 or over to win the Breeders' Cup Turf. And some of them were single-figure prices. You know, Rebels Romance brushes that to one side. And even he's running the Dubai Shima Classic. Like, that's not a bad effort. No. Very early in the campaign. And I do wonder at the start of the season, did they think, you're not quite what you were, and that's why they went to mile 6 with him, and then realized, no, don't do that. Back down. Yeah. The Royal Ascot performance is great. That's Charlie Appleby's first win in 3 or 4 years at the Royal Ascot, by the way, and this is the boy who gets it for him, and that form has worked out well. Even the King George form, I know it's a 5-runner race, and 2 of the Aiden O'Brien horses bombed out because pacemaking tactics were crazy, but still Rebels Romance does it really impressively. Look, there's an awful lot to like about him. I just think the price about Goliath is wrong, and
that's fair.
Don't really know who Clement Leclavier is, and don't know if he's going to be on board. But I do know that Francois-Henri Gaffard has got 12 Group 1 wins to his name this season, and he's an extraordinarily good trainer. And I would just be projectile, insert colourful language. There'd be peas and carrots all over the floor. The whatever inevitable. I'm on a diet, so of course I'll be binge eating a pizza during the Breeders' Cup. It would be all over the floor, Ryan, if Goliath goes and wins it 10-1. But I really hope Rebels Romance wins it. I love this horse, and you're not supposed to have your heart rule your head. It's the Breeders' Cup. We're going to have a few plays at this. He's definitely in them. He's in all the exotics, and so is Goliath. I'm going to take on Minnie Hawk. I would love to see her win, but I'm going to take her on.
Yeah, if she wins, that's an excellent training story and just goes to add to the resume for Aiden O'Brien. But that's one I'm absolutely taking on. Goliath, I like a little bit. Definitely going to be in all the exotics. Howard talked a little bit about this horse, Gold Phoenix. I'll just touch on this one briefly. Another one where Del Mar is his kind of backyard. He's won the Del Mar Handicap 4 years in a row. I'm vaguely certain that eventually when Gold Phoenix retires, they got to rename the Del Mar Handicap after him because he has been an absolute dominant force. I have no insider information on that. It feels like the right thing with a horse being this dominant year in, year out in the same race. All that to be said, he's going to be up against it. Now, he has one thing going for him, and that's in a Breeders' Cup race. He has only once has he been beaten by an American horse, and that was the best one that we've had in quite some time and up to the mark in that Auguste Rodin race. Other than that, he's never lost to a U.S. bred horse in the Breeders' Cup races. So you go back to last year, he lost to Roshan Park, Shahryar and Rebels Romance, and then 2 years back, Auguste Rodin up to the mark was the one, and Shahryar who ran again, or who ran previously. So that's one. He's kind of the pet horse. He's the horse that we love. He's the bias horse. He's the one that I got to include on all the exotics because I'd have peas and carrots everywhere if he finishes in the money and I didn't use the hometown hero, so to speak. So Gold Phoenix is one that I think deserves a little more respect than he's going to get. You talked about Rashabar a little bit. Rebel Red, I don't think has any real chance. Redistricting, kind of the same thing. I don't think that's a very strong horse. Salawi, I thought was a little bit interesting with the Canadian International win. I don't know if you have.
That was a bad race, horse. And Nation's Pride is gone.
I have not liked Nation's Pride all year.
He's gone.
That horse to me, I've never been able to trust him, and I'm happy that that opinion was right. I'm with you. I don't think that this was the strongest running of the Canadian International, a Group 1 up at Woodbine, but he still won it, and he still did hold on. Again, though, Tawnyport, not a whole lot of good things to say. And then Wimbledon Hawkeye for Frankie Dettori, who was red hot at Kentucky Downs all year. This is just another 3-year-old facing olders for just the second time. Finished second behind El Cordobez. I don't give El Cordobez any shot in here whatsoever.
Zero chance.
Reason, I can't use Wimbledon Hawkeye if the horse that beat him I also think has no shot. So
Amalok will beat Wimbledon Hawkeye.
Yes, that is sorry. Yep. As I scroll up, that is the last horse to talk about. Amalok, who you mentioned, this is a very consistent runner. You mentioned last time, maybe not the best ride by Ross Orion. Gets a little bit of time off here, comes in on for about 6 weeks. I anticipate a much better run, and this one could certainly, hit the board. And I would expect this one too. This would be more of a shock to miss the board than he would be if he was hitting the board. Yeah,
not a great season for Rafe Beckett, and I think he's a fantastic trainer and one of the best talkers in the business as well. He's a great guy to interview. There's a quote from Kia Jabrakan, the guy who runs Ammo Racing, and he's a football agent. He's spending fortunes on horses left, right, and center. Oh, yeah. And he was asked, "Why have you split from Rafe Beckett again? This is the second time you two you've kissed and made up. You've got horses back in training with him. You've pulled them again because he gelded a horse without my permission." Like, all right. Well, that's interesting. I need to hear from Rafe Beckett, by the way, but that's what Kia put out there. Rafe Beckett has won one Group 1 all season, if I remember correctly, and that was a fluke with Kirat. I know afterwards he was saying, no, I really fancied it. He was 150 to 1, mate. No, you didn't. And the horse was just there as a rabbit, and it just was a disaster at the Sussex Stakes. But it hasn't been the season for him that he would have wanted. Amalok, though, when his horses were not hitting the line, especially at Royal Ascot, it was very, very significant that this horse was sent off 11-8 favourite for the Royal Meeting when his horses weren't hitting the line, and he goes and wins. And the horse he beats is a Johnny Murtagh horse. Johnny Murtagh wouldn't hear a defeat for his horse. To be fair, that horse wins the Royal Whip next time out, which is a trial for the Irish Champion Stakes. And I think just because of circumstance, they ended up going for the Irish St. Leger. And again, I just think Rossa goes to the front too soon. Now, he ends up being beaten by Al Rifa, who's a really talented horse. He's a wooden basset. Maybe Al Rifa is going to be the dominant stare. He might win the Melbourne Cup. Maybe when we're doing the Breeders' Cup review, we might be watching him gallop to glory in Australia. Maybe he had no chance with him that day. I think fast ground, 12 furlongs at Del Mar will suit him better. He is a fast horse, and because he's a gelding, hopefully we'll get to enjoy him for many years. Shouldn't be underestimated. And if there's a pace collapse, which there may very well be, Amalok might be one of the horses who takes advantage of that. I wanted to back him last week at 20 to 1. And a friend of mine who's very shrewd talked me out of it. And Davy Lane has talked me right back into it. He's all over him. So Rebels, Romance, Goliath, Amalok, that would be the TriCast. That pace collapse scenario would help Ethical Diamond. It's kind of extraordinary to think that county hurdle horse who's beaten in the county hurdle would go and win a Breeders' Cup turf, and he shouldn't be good enough at this level. So hopefully it's Rebels, Romance, Goliath, and Amalok who fight at the finish, and we get the sweep.
I will say I like all that. Amalok is the horse that I want closing, and Rebels Romance is the horse I want that's going to be near the lead. I don't want any horse that's going to be on the lead. I don't think that they're going to be there in the end. Del Mar, something really unique about our turf course, maybe less unique, but something that's very prevalent. It's very, very hard to go wire to wire, go gate to wire, make all in a race over the turf course. I don't know the science behind why. It's just you rarely see it. And when you do, 9 times out of 10, that's a very, very nice animal. I don't think any of these runners, while I think individually they could be capable of doing it, I think that there's too much pace presence in here for any of them to get away with a soft enough lead. So I'm with you. I think Rebels Romance, to me, still my top pick. I don't hate your pick on Goliath. I'm just not going to be tailing you there. I will be tailing you with Amalok. I do believe this is the horse that I want closing. And I think post position obviously is going to, come into effect, but so will jockeys, and you can kind of handicap from there. But this is 3 turns. You have plenty of time to kind of get over and save some ground. So that's the Breeders' Cup turf. Emmet, first, got to thank you for taking the time. This is back to back for you. You just hopped off the HHH racing. It's got to be like 11:30 at night out there. You're on hour 3. Real quick, tell the people where they can find you for all of your excellent content.
You can follow us at Radio Emmet on X, but more importantly, just smash the subscribe button to the Final Furlong podcast, which, if I have this right, 9 of the last 12 preview shows has had at least one double-figure priced winner and multiple winning naps and just loads of crack as well. Lots of good fun on those shows. We do reviews, previews, and big interviews, including with Aidan O'Brien for the Breeders' Cup. This man, Ryan Anderson, is going to be on an epic Breeders' Cup preview with Irish-American trainer Tim Shaw, Howard Kravitz, Charlie Freeman, breaking down all the top races you need for the Breeders' Cup. As if the Breeders' Cup chat isn't enough, we'll do that on Monday. Epic Breeders' Cup preview on Wednesday as well with Barry Faulkner from Sky Sports Racing, Adam Mills, Total Performance Data, former jockey Georgia Cox, breaking down the top contenders from a European and from an American perspective. Barry Faulkner is a genius when it comes to American racing. He's a specialist based in Britain for that. So we'll do that. The standard weekend preview as well on the Thursday with the boys, and lots of content coming your way as well. We're sponsoring races at the Curragh, which, touch wood, is going well. There's a competition. We're going to give this to stable staff. This isn't to a trainer, but somebody who is a representative of a stable staff, whichever trainer accumulates enough points. And right now it's the youngest trainer in Ireland who only has 24 horses to his name, Daniel McLaughlin. His horse, Scissor G, has won 2 runnings of the Final Furlong podcast handicap with 1xBet at the Curragh, which means he has 20 points. So he's basically 1 win away or nobody else getting enough points to join him with a member of his stable staff. And he's only got 6 people working for him, winning a trip to Paris Saint-Germain against Tottenham Hotspur in the Champions League, because 1xBet are the official betting partner of the European Champions, PSG, and of Barcelona FC as well. So we're going to give that away in the next week for the Curragh season finale. We're sponsoring 4 races in the day, so we're looking forward to that. Lots of content, lots of jumps preview. If you want to get your National Hunt Racing fix, come to us, but loads of flat racing content. And it's very much a conversation like this. It's not right and proper, and this is BBC Radio 4, and we're going, well, did you know that this race's time form figures, blah, blah, blah. No, it's a bit of crack. It's a bit of fun, and strong opinions, just like Ryan, just like Charlie. So come to us on the Final Furlong podcast. Join us, all good podcast apps and on YouTube.
That's an excellent plug. I'm, again, so excited to join you on Monday with Howard, with Tim Shaw, and, of course, the legendary Charlie Freeman, because that guy's just always so fun to talk to.
He's class.
He is. Yeah, we'll continue on with the Breeders' Cup Mile now as we get back to it. 2 more races to cover, and then we'll highlight the Breeders' Cup, where no City of Troy, so not a whole huge conversation to have on that one. But let's go to the Breeders' Cup Mile, obviously going the mile on turf for 3-year-olds and upwards. Another good Euro and Japanese contingent in here. You have Bucanero Fuerte, who was double entered. We already talked about that runner. Formidable Man, he's a little bit interesting. 6 for 6 at Del Mar, so he's never lost. This is going to be his biggest test by far. I don't think he's going to win, but you never know. Crazier things have happened, and he's been closing into some slow paces, which is a U.S. guy. I like that. But where did your eyes go? Who did you give top billing to? And where is your money going to be played in this race?
Not notable speech, I can tell you that. And I guess you can
really?
make the argument, oh, no, don't like this horse at all. maybe you can make the argument that he comes into this in a better preparation this year than last year because he was well beaten in France, and then somehow he doesn't win this race. Like, he's positioned to win it, and the horse who wins it comes from further back than he did. Yeah. And Buick didn't do anything wrong, so he's every chance to win the race. He was a 3-year-old. Why does he win it now? Why? Because he was second in a Group 1 last time out? Oh, he should have won it, I hear you say. Yeah, maybe. Maybe he should have before going to Canada and winning. But he didn't. And that's the common theme with Notable Speech. There's an excuse from getting beaten in the St. James's Palace Stakes. Oh, he didn't handle the track that day. And then there's an excuse from getting beaten in France. And there's another excuse from him. And then, oh, he just wasn't quite right in the Lock-Inch. Well, you told us he was. Oh, the Queen Anne didn't. There's no excuse for that Queen Anne defeat. Zero excuse for that. Then they drop him back in trip and supplement him for the July Cup. I've told you the sprinters are horrible. You're sent off favourite and you can't beat them. And then you do run well. You do run very well. Props to you against Diego Velasquez. Shout out Diego Velasquez. We tipped him at 20-1. Shameless after timing in the Prix Jacques Lemarrois. So I'm not going to complain about that. Very happy with Christophe Soumillon's win that day. But like, Dancing Gemini is right up behind you. Dancing Gemini wouldn't win this race. Docklands got beaten again the other day. He's a specialist at Ascot, and he's only a length and a quarter off. That's just pants. And that Grade 1, that Woodbine Mile, I mean, he was an absolute stone cold solid moral for that race. He was even money with a certain bookmaker for that race, Ryan. And I told Howard, if you can't beat that lot, then you may as well forget about it. He wins by a length.
Too.
Sorry, I did, didn't I? I think I did I think I might have done a whole epic Ulysses length preview for you.
That was fantastic. Like, very helpful.
He wins, but he wins by a length and 3/4. I don't know. Good luck. Listen, maybe I'm going to have egg on my face on the review show. No thanks. No thanks at all. I've seen this before. Him and Rosalian, two of the worst Group 1 winning milers I've seen for quite a while. That was a horrible division. It was them and Henry Longfellow and Metropolitan, and they're all just crap, I think. So, look, if he goes and wins it, fair enough. Jonquil's interesting. Don't trust him. The Line in Winter had a really horrible head carriage. Now, he's got a valid excuse, because I think there's a lot of people who still want to tell you, did you know Field of Gold is going to stay in training, Ryan? He's going to be back next year, Field of Gold. Okay, bro. Cool story, bro. So he wins the Irish Champion Stakes, and it was a horrible race. That form has worked out terribly. He wins the St. James's Palace Stakes, and they give him an RPR of 130, and oh my goodness, he's only the 5th British-trained horse in 10 years to crack the 130. What a superstar. He beat Henri Matisse, Rashabar, a below-form ruling court who unfortunately is no longer with us and I think was talented, and Winlord. Terrible form. The Line in Winter beat Ruling Court. Ruling Court beat Field of Gold. The first time the Line in Winter faces Field of Gold, surprise, surprise, he beats him. Mm-hmm. So if you do think the Field of Gold is some superstar who's going to rock the world next year, well, then Line in Winter is too big a price at 6-1. And he comes into this in the back of a career best effort. It's a minor improvement on RPRs from his Group 1 at Longchamp behind Shaylan. 116 to 117. Somehow he gets beaten by 100 to 1 shot. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's not really a draw bias because the handicap over a mile is won by a horse who's drawn on the other side. So no, that's nonsense. The head carriage, the awkward head carriage was gone. I'll say that for him. And he's clearly always been held in very high regard. He had ringworm earlier in the season. They finally get him out. They run him in the Dante. Aidan O'Brien was explicit. I know he sent off odds on favourite. He was explicit. He badly needed the race. They then run him in the Derby, probably because the Derby is very important to Coolmore. I think they knew he wasn't going to stay. Colin Keane looked after him that day. Bounces back to form in a Group 1 when he's placed. Bombs out behind Diego Velasquez, who knows why. Sometimes those Aidan O'Brien horses that get beaten a wide margin, there's a reason for that. It's because when they can't win, why would you give them an unnecessarily hard race? They're not going to place, so it doesn't matter if they get beaten 50 lengths. The run behind Shaylan is much better. The QE2 run is better. It's a quick turnaround. I can't believe for a second that this has actually been the plan. Why would he beat Shaylan? Shaylan is 6-1. He's coming into this in the back of a career best effort. He's won his last two, a Group 3 and a Group 1. The French form tends to work out very well at the Breeders' Cup. Again, Francois-Henri Gaffard, genius of a trainer. Again, these Wooden Bassets keep winning. Yeah. He does have to turn form around with Jonquil, but Jonquil is not a horse I would trust. So I'm going to side with Shaylan. We're getting 6-1 on this side of the pond, and I think that's very fair.
I like that. You broke down a lot as you always do in your analysis there. Lion and Winter, you brought up a really, I think, important point to mention for handicappers when they look at these European runners, and that's you often see huge margins of defeat by Aidan O'Brien runners because if they're, as you said, if they're not going to win, they're probably not going to place. Why exert them to finish, 5th by 7 when you can just wrap up and protect them, which makes all the more sense in the world. It's obviously doing best by the horse, but it's also just the smart and logical thing to do overall because you often see them bounce back. You rarely see them do that twice in a row where they
City of Troy, Augusta Rodan, they were battered and they bounced back and won the Derby.
Exactly. And they bounce back because they were protected in that spot and they come back. It's not like they got discouraged. It was more just, it wasn't their day. Protect, run them back. So, over here, we'll see that line and it doesn't typically mean, it means maybe either something went wrong. Maybe they really didn't like the turf course. Sometimes with, sloppy tracks or whatever, horses don't handle it. Aidan O'Brien specifically, though, that's something that I think is very noteworthy because when they don't run like that, either they need the race or they're just being protected. And I think this is that was just important to mention. So thank you. Lion and Winter, he does seem to have, his head back on his shoulders the right way as you alluded to the head carriage being fixed. For Shalon, I believe is how you pronounce this horse. I do like.
I'm going with that. My French pronunciations are not to be trusted.
That's okay. I only speak English. So the.
Lo siento, no hablo mucho español.
So I got to take your word for it. But I do like the French form as it transfers over, typically, more than the European runners form coming from anywhere in, the Great Britain area. So, Shalon, I'm not against this horse. I was always looking forward to Notable Speech. Not anymore. That win was not very convincing. It wasn't typical Appleby sprint for home that you see, and he's already failed here doing this once. And I've kind of seen enough. He was the favorite that day. He won by open lengths last time at Woodbine, but that was not the best field. My boy Prince finishing second, he'd be 100-1 in here. I don't want it. A horse that I think should be on your radar is Rhetorical. And I get that he's a U.S. horse, but U.S. horses can win this race.
Well, you've won 5 of the last 10.
They have. And this horse has won 5 of his 6 career starts, and he has done very little wrong. This horse is incredible. He knocked up. Now, he started off in state bred races, as he is a New York bred. But after that win, he went into the allowance race. He finished 3rd, but he was really far back that day. He was left with a lot of work to do. Came back, though, state bred allowance race, blew the doors off that. Then he went to Open Company, which is a big step up, and he went to the non-winners of 2 conditions, so he technically jumped 2 levels, blew the doors off that field. Then he comes back in a stakes race for state breds, wins that easily at odds on, and then last time out, I think, was the coming out party for Rhetorical. He did that. He won that race in such a nice way. I can pull up the field really quick because there's a few common runners. John Quill, who we talked about, who you said you didn't trust. Howard Wallowitz, who I believe he is entered turning back, but I have to confirm on that one. Diego Velasquez, who I just don't think likes it over here. I don't know what his deal is, but he just doesn't.
They've retired him.
They have now? Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's news and good to know. But the times he's been entered to run here so many times, and he just never showed up. Yeah. Program trading, decent.
He was favored for the mile last year. Sorry to cut across, but he was favored for this race a year ago.
He was, and then we can pull it up for his form here. He was favored to win it, and then scratched. Again, just I don't know what his deal was, but he's now been retired. Obviously, wish him all the best in humping mares. But John Quill, again, you said you didn't trust him.
Best luck to you, sir, in your new career.
Best luck to you in your new career. Program trading, very good horse for Chad Brown, Clarovich Stables, but not one that I think really stacks up at this level. I think Rhetorical, going into that race last time out, he was very underexposed. That was his first graded stakes. That was his first open stakes test, and it was a grade 1 at Keeneland. It's a very prestigious race, and he closed like a train, and he did it so professionally. It says 3/4 of a length, but I don't think anybody was getting to him that day if they went around again. He kind of makes his own trip. He kind of sits in the right position that he's going to be able to sit come Breeders' Cup Turf Mile Day. This is one that I really want. I want to see the price. I don't want to take anything under about 6-1 because I think the Euros, and rightfully so, are going to be very, very tough to beat in here. But the Turf Mile is kind of where we're able to, even the playing field maybe a little bit in that sense of the word, with the U.S. horses facing Euros. So I like Rhetorical a lot. Will Walden has had one hell of a year. I expect Irad to be the named jockey aboard once again, and he's going to be definitely put on a good showing. I think he's equal to as talented as More Than Looks, who won this race last year.
Well, here's what I'd say about the milers. You could make the argument that actually our milers are not that different from the sprinters in that how do you trust them? Docklands wins the Queen Anne. I mean, fair play. Peter Michael tipped the horse on the Final Frontal podcast, so again, no complaints. But like Docklands winning a Group 1 over a mile, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Field of Gold, okay, that Guineas form just doesn't work out. It just hasn't for the last few years for whatever reason. The last 5 years, the 2000 Guineas form is just pure rubbish. John Quill is unexposed at this trip, and he was considered good enough to be supplemented for the Group 1 Commonwealth Cup, which is a sprint race over 6 furlongs. And that was because Juddmonte had Field of Gold for the St. James's Palace Stakes, so they weren't going to run him over the mile. I don't quite understand why they didn't run him in the Jersey Stakes over 7 furlongs. That would have been ideal for him, and he wouldn't have been carrying a penalty. It must have been they wanted to win a Group 1, and it didn't work out. But they booked Christophe Soumillon. They supplemented him for the race. He was very strong in the betting that day. Then they go to Goodwood, blows out, but I'll forgive any horse a bad run at Goodwood. He then goes back to Goodwood, intriguingly, but Upton Trip, and it was very different ground. He wins. The horse who finished second and won Group 3, dead heated for a Group 3 at Goodwood the time before, but that form is okay. And then the form at Rhetorical, yeah, fine, but why does he beat Rhetorical? So the very long-winded way of me saying, essentially, I can understand why people would like John Quill, and he's one of these ex-Sir Michael Stout horses who switched and has really reaped the benefits of the slow training process that Sir Michael would have had. Andrew Balding turned Never So Brave into a Group 1 winner this season. He might very well do the same thing with John Quill, but I don't really trust him. But I can understand why he'd run a career best in this race. Shalan is very, very interesting, and I think is the more solid of the I think he's the most solid of the European horses. He's a career best effort last time in a Group 1. But is that form any good? I don't know. He's the same price as the Line in Winter. He seems like a much more solid proposition than the Line in Winter. But this is basically me saying I was looking for my arm to be twisted with an American runner. Mm-hmm. And you have twisted it. I mean, he's definitely going in the exotics, and he might just be a horse that I go and back for the win. Because if I tell you right now that I can get, am I right about this? I can get 10-1 about him.
Yeah, I love that. That's to me is a very fair price for a horse that has truly done nothing wrong. And he's facing a tougher test, but he's met every test, at the level. So he's already beaten a horse who is, again, sorry for cutting across you, but he's already beaten a horse who is currently, okay, John Quill is 12-1 for the race. But why does John Quill turn the form around? Well, now let me make that argument, because at 12-1, I would definitely take John Quill. I thought he was going to be bet down in the 7-2, 4-1s, and I don't want him anywhere near there. But let's real quick. I'll look at the running line. Is where we'll start. He had Dylan Davis aboard that day, first of all, and nothing against Dylan Davis. He's a very capable rider. He was kind of left hang out to dry. He drew post 11 of 11 at Keeneland. Those are tight turns.
Not good.
Not good. You can see in the running line, 4-3 path at the first turn. He went 7 wide turning for home to try and rally. And I can't blame Dylan there. You got to just get this horse in space and close. Incremental pace. You look at the final fraction. Rhetorical ran 22.93. That's good. Program trading 22.79. John Quill blows them away. He went 22.48. And that final fraction, that sprint for home, that shows you that turn of foot that these horses have. That's the fastest in the field. And that's a stat that I really lean, I don't want to say heavily, but I put a lot of emphasis into when I look at the mile races specifically, because that sprint for home really makes all the difference. So if John Quill is that price, anywhere from the 8-1 or above, and he can draw well in posts 1 through 5, he's a must use in my opinion. I think him and Rhetorical I value almost the same. I think those I think that race, as it typically does the turf mile, I think it's going to hold up really well. So I absolutely want every bit of Jonquil and Rhetorical if they are going to offer a generous price.
Well, you're saying basically this. Davy Lane wasn't as detailed as that, but Davy Lane was making the point that he really wants to be with Jonquil. And just purely from the Racing Post ratings perspective, the Line in Winter 117 last time out. Shellan 117. The Line in Winter was obviously 116 because he was just behind him that day. Jonquil 115. And that's 115 from a horrible draw, having to come from off the pace. I mean, you could say he ran as well as the Celebration Mile, but actually maybe he ran better than that Goodwood run.
Yeah, you absolutely can make that case. And furthermore, just to go back and flatter the form of the turf mile, More Than Looks finished second in the turf mile last year behind Carl Spackler. We don't have to talk about what Carl Spackler has gone on to do because now he's running overseas by you if he hasn't shipped to Australia yet. And I don't think that was the best training move that they could have done. But either way, More Than Looks came out of that turf mile last year at Keeneland. That race typically translates really well to Del Mar because the turf courses are pretty similar. So again, I think the turf mile is going to be flattered in this race with Jonquil or Rhetorical. There's no others that I really love in here. Johannes is a very talented horse who ran third in here last year. Second in this race last year. He's very good at a mile. He's 5 for 7 at the distance. He handles Del Mar fine. He's actually undefeated up at Santa Anita. I believe 7 for 7. All that to say, I don't know about him. If he is a good enough price, I don't know what he is overseas right now, but he would have to be again in that double-digit range, and I don't think we're going to get that.
It actually just occurred to me that this horse actually has Jonquil has a pretty similar profile to Expert Eye, who won this race in 2018. I want to say 2018 for the Stats Boys. Am I right about that? It was Sir Michael Stout, and
that sounds right because no horse named Expert Eye has won the Breeders' Cup Mile as far as I've been following, and I didn't follow until 2019. So I think 2018 is the correct year. 2018 it was. So he was a Juddmonte horse as well, but he was trained by Sir Michael Stout like Jonquil was last season. Expert Eye was a superior horse as a juvenile, but that's because Jonquil didn't really have much of an opportunity. And interestingly, Jonquil won the Jersey Stakes, so I'm again slightly confused as to they didn't have a horse for the Jersey Stakes, so I don't know why they didn't just go for 7 furlongs. They must have been very confident he was going to win the Commonwealth Cup, and he didn't. But it's a similar enough preparation, except that they've decided to bring him over to America to give him a prep run. And he's going to have Colin Keane. And Colin Keane's obviously a Breeders' Cup winning jockey, ending the season strong. Andrew Balding's had an unbelievable season. Like from the very start of the season, all the way through, his horses have been in incredible form. And this might just be another one of those ex-Sir Michael Stout horses that benefits from that very slow progression as a juvenile to then explode as a 3-year-old. So you're probably there's a fair chance you're going to see a career best effort. It's not going to take a huge amount to win this race. Like the Line in Winter is a lovely horse, but you're backing up very quickly after two weeks in the QE2, and he got beaten by 100 to 1 shot, and it's not like he sets an impossible standard anyway. And Shellan, yeah, real nice horse, and I like him, and I think he's the one I'm definitely using him. But he's 6 to 1. Okay, 6 to 1.
He's 6 to 1. Jonquil is, please hold caller. Your call is very important to us at the Gallop Out Towers. 12 to 1, and widely available at 12s.
I mean, that's pretty good. I will use Shellan. You know, I'm going to use that horse for sure. I think I'm going to play against Line in Winter. I'm going to play against Johannes. I'm going to play against all the American runners other than Rhetorical. I'm probably going to use those 3, Rhetorical, Jonquil, and Shellan. I feel like 3 deep in the mile is probably deep enough for me. I don't like going anything crazy just because, you know, you can only go so deep in these races. You got to have an opinion or don't play. So I like those 3, and I'm pretty much good with moving on from there. I think Shellan is very interesting. Line in Winter, you mentioned he's backing up rather quick. Emmet, you've been on for almost 2 hours, so let's get to the final race on the grass that we'll talk about. It's the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. It's going to be the last race run on Championship Saturday for the Breeders' Cup out at Del Mar. We're going 1 mile and 3/8. It's the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, as I said. Who attracted your eye in here? Because the U.S. runners, much like the Euro sprinters, I don't love any of the U.S. horses.
She Feels Pretty has the top RPR, which is interesting, but
Really?
I'm
Of
kind
the
of like,
entire field?
yeah, of the entire field, she's 139. See the Fire is 137, which kind of is wild given her
Now,
form with Ombudsman.
sorry, I didn't want to talk over you there. I heard mentioned on the HHH Racing podcast before here, she feels pretty maybe got a little leg weary late in the last race, the EP Taylor, going the mile and a quarter. I don't know that I agree with that. I think she just kind of got lost focused a little bit. She made the lead a lot earlier than she typically does, and I think that played a huge role in it. I think that stretch at Woodbine is very long. And ultimately, I think it was just a lack of focus, which you don't typically see from a horse as professional as she is. But she still got a career best buyer in that effort, so she still ran really well, and she completed the time in 2 minutes, which is very good, or 2 minutes 0.8. Johnny V is going to be aboard again. I don't know that you're going to have her as an odds-on favorite, which you got to kind of like that. And she hasn't run a Breeders' Cup race since the Juvenile Fillies Turf. They skipped it last year, and they ran the mile and a quarter distance in the American Oaks at Santa Anita, which I don't know that Cherie has ever confirmed this, but I believe that that was kind of a test to see, can she, one, go that distance against grade 1 competition? And that race was pretty weak in terms of grade 1 kind of caliber horses, but she blew the doors off that field. It was never in doubt. And then she came back last time and beat beat Diamond Rain, who I don't think is a great, horse in here, but I'll let you speak to that runner. Ready for Sherrill, also not great, but she did it the right way. She got a good speed figure, and you mentioned she has the highest rating in this field. So I do think She Feels Pretty has a chance and a big one to hit the board without a doubt. But I want to lean on some euros for this race. So what's your insight here? And we'll start with See the Fire.
I think she's fascinating, and she deserves to be 72. Mini Hawk's obviously going to go for the turf. She's 72 favourite with Mini Hawk having first preference for the turf, obviously, which is the race she's going to run in, because Aidan O'Brien told us that in the Final Front podcast yesterday. So the former Ombudsman makes her extremely interesting. Ombudsman's a dual Group 1 winner over 10 furlongs. He was, I think that Jumpment International was ridiculous, but he was brilliant in the Prince of Wales Stakes. For all that they went off an insane gallop that day. I mean, Continuous was a St. Ledger winner and just not suited to the role of pacemaker. He went off way too fast, not once but twice, and really cost Coolmore. Aidan O'Brien even more Group 1 wins. But Ombudsman probably wins anyway. She's only 4.5 lengths off him that day. She's third. They supplemented her for the race because she was a 12-length winner on her comeback run. It was her second start of the season. She improved. Second run off the layoff, having been 2 lengths off Alazi, bolts up by 12 lengths against the Fillies in a Group 2 at York. That Goodwood race, throw that race out. It's a flag start. Ryan Moore jumps the lead, gets a huge start over the opposition on a previous Group 1 winner in Whirl. Last time a Group 1 winner in the Pretty Polly follows up in that race. He was laughing about it afterwards. She actually did well to be only beaten 6.25 lengths, and she did well to get within a similar margin of defeat to Ombudsman as she did at Royal Ascot in what I think is a stupid running of the Jumpment International. You've got a pacemaker from another stable setting a race up for John Gosden's benefit. Great for you, not great for Danon Desiel, for Darius, for Delacroix, who was ridden by a jockey who was injured, by the way. Last time out, much better. She finishes a short neck behind Barnavara in a Group 1 on very soft ground. Probably was inconvenienced by that. It's been a busy season for her, but she has a performance in her that could be pretty explosive, and this could be a big Breeders' Cup for Andrew Balding. So
yes.
she'll have Oisin Murphy as well. So she's solid. She's solid at the top.
She seems solid, and she's certainly, just so well bred. See the stars out of a Dubawi mare. I mean, that screams that this
Group 1 winning mare is
going to be no problem. Group 1 winning mare as well. All that, and the See the Stars like to hear their feet rattle. They like the firm going. From what I've seen over here. So that's just kind of added confidence. So I like that. I mean, you look through the running lines, and when I can, remember and recall most of who she's lost to, whether it's Porta Fortuna and Opera Singer and Ramatois, City of Troy, when you go way back, Opera Singer once again. And then you mentioned all the ones from Calandigan up to Budsman Whirl, Budsman again, and Barnavara. And she finished a close second when behind Barnavara. Was Barnavara the favorite that day?
Barnavara was not favorite. We Might Take the Long Way, I think, was sent off favorite.
I see.
Big gamble on
either way, ran to her odds, ran at second. Her odds, at 3-ish to 1, 3.5 to 1, kind of,
Yeah,
so
and Barnavaro was suited by the ground and came into it on the back of a career best effort, winning a Group 2 and Irish Champions Weekend, to be fair.
So there we go. Seems very well meant for that spot Barnavaro was, and see the fire kind of got her head back on running. She comes in here, and this could be a very big meet for Andrew Balding. I agree with you. He has some real threatening runners in here. La Kika, this is a Peruvian bred horse. No thanks.
Shout out to the Peruvian posse.
I am good buddies with Doug O'Neill. He is an excellent guy. This horse, if he wins, I will get to high five Doug, and that is the only reward that I want from that, because I don't want to put a single dollar on that horse. All due respect there. I believe you said Gazora is going to eventually end up with Chad Brown with the Peter Brandt connection there.
Yeah, I don't like that then, because that means she's only over here because she's transferring to America anyway, so you may as well. But she is a classic winner. Now, she beat Bedtime Story, and Bedtime Story is 16 to 1, and Gazora is probably 6 to 1. Wow. 6 to 1, 5 to 1 is Gazora. The form at Aventura is really good. Aventura was runner-up in the Arc a year ago. That was in the Prix Vermeil. Bedtime Story is not far off them. So you could just take Bedtime Story instead of her. I hadn't thought of the fact that she was just going to transfer to Chad Brown, and that's the reason she's there. Gaffard has mentioned this as being a target for her for a while, and she disappointed in the Arc, obviously, but she was a big price for it. She drifted on the day, so maybe that was just a step too far for her.
In your thoughts for the Arc, do you think that was a kind of a wrap up and preserve her type situation because Gafford had mentioned that this was kind of the goal, or do you think she was just so well beaten that day and she didn't have a chance?
Which was written by Tom Marquand, so he's not incentivized to ease up. Marquand, by the way, will be another jockey to be watching out for. Obviously, a Breeders' Cup winning jockey, and he's top class. But he has to accept defeat when it comes his way. And obviously, Gaffard wins the race anyway with Darius, so he's not really going to. It's not going to matter to him. And Barcelona's contracted to the Aga Khan, so the jockey situation was just best available, and Barcelona couldn't ride. I would imagine Barcelona will be on board. She has the French Oaks form, again, French form transferring over. She's short enough, and the fact that she's going to, if that's right, if she is transferring to America, I don't like that then. I've kind of gone off her now. This is not a great race.
No, it's not the strongest running for sure. Diamond Rain, no. I don't know if you want to elaborate. I just don't. I don't.
Well, every time Charlie is asked about Cinderella's Dream, he makes a point of mentioning Diamond Rain. And the last time he did this, he kept on banging on about El Corbedes when everybody was talking about Nation's Pride, and El Corbedes goes and wins. So, would be foolish to underestimate her, I think. And she's an all-weather Group 3 winner. She beat Running Line. Running Line's hot and cold horse. She did win a listed race the other day, and she doesn't have much to find with She Feels Pretty, to be fair. And maybe this race is going to suit her better. Charlie's got a fantastic record at the meeting, so I prefer her. I way prefer her to Cinderella's Dream. I don't like that horse at all.
Well,
I really don't like that horse.
One I ask about, I don't either.
No.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to go too much into it. This horse is very consistent. With 12 in the money finishes of 14 starts, I just think that I don't think that this is going to be her best distance. I don't trust her really at all.
No.
And I think she's going to be too short. I don't know what she is overseas right now, but she's got to be single digits come post time.
Oh, she's 3 to 1, I think.
Yeah.
No thanks. Sorry, she's 9 to 2. To be fair, she's 9 to 2. No,
well,
they sent her off 11. They sent her off 11 to 8 for the Sun Chariot Stakes, and she got battered by Fallen Angel. 11 to 10 for the Group 1 in France. Bedtime Story got no run that day. She's trapped on the rail. She's stuck behind horses, and she still finishes alongside Cinderella's Dream, who didn't have that kind of interference. So why would you not back Bedtime Story? Probably because I've lost enough on her this season, and even if she wins at 16 to 1, I wouldn't recoup the losses that I've lost on so far. And I can't imagine for a second that this has been the target with Bedtime Story. But I have long been of the opinion that there is a big race in this horse, and this is probably the last roll of the dice for her. Look, she'll be a broodmare. She's beautifully bred. She's out of a dual Group 1 winning sprinter. She's by the greatest horse we've ever seen in Frankel. She's second in a French Oaks. She's a wide margin winner of the Chesham Stakes. She beat Barnavara last season in a Group 3 and in a Group 2, and exactly. Barnavara wins a Group 1. Exactly is placed in a couple of Group 1s this season. The form is there. She was sent off favourite on Arc Weekend when they stepped up to a mile 6 for the race. Grateful one for Aidan O'Brien last year under Sumion. She just didn't like the trip and she didn't seem to like the ground. Last time out was better and one of her better efforts of the season. But she's still beaten 4 1/4 lengths. Now, Kalpana would lap this lot.
Yes.
Estrange would...
very good.
She's very good. Estrange would probably win this, and Quisasana would probably go well too. And none of those three are here. Yeah. So Bedtime Story at a double figure price is probably too big, and I might just take a chance on her. But I have a funny feeling this is going to be like the last leg of whatever the multiple bet is that I'm doing that day. Lucky 63 will say, and this is the 12:25, the last race. I might just watch the replay in the morning.
That's incredible. Great insight on Bedtime Story here. Who do you think is going to be the rider, and do you think it will be their first call or their second call jockey for Bedtime Story here?
Oh, it'll be Sumion. It'll be Sumion, and yeah, I like that. By the way, I really like Christoph Sumion, and I think he'll be really well suited. But it will be Sumion.
I like Sumion as well. And that I think goes a long way. I typically in the U.S. I don't like to pay a whole lot of attention to jockey musical chairs when jockeys hop on and off. But overseas, it is a very different game. Is a lot of them are contracted. So I think it goes a long way in showing intention and beyond that, just intention, and overall kind of talent of who is the A runner, who is the B runner.
Yeah, 100%. Now Aidan O'Brien's got so much strength and depth. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Yeah. Case in point, Precise was the third string, and she goes and wins the Moigler. But Christoph Sumion was on her in the Phillies Mile, and Aidan O'Brien had a big team that day, and, well, we know what happened.
You know what happened. So Bedtime Story, that's one that I'm now going to include on my tickets without a doubt. Be your best, no shot in this race, as I'm just kind of scrolling up through here. At Celia, I believe it was Davey Lane who mentioned that he might have liked this horse. Elise Verite, I thought was maybe a touch interesting. Just because the Japanese runners do so well when they typically ship out here. And they, this one tried the distaff last year. That didn't work at all, but that was a very scratched down distaff. She didn't really get a fair shot at it. She's going to get a shot here in the turf. And this is maybe one I'll include on some exotics, but I'm not too sure. I think I'm probably just going to use 2 on top using Bedtime Story as Winston is paying another trip to back. I don't know. Gazora is kind of speaking to me a little bit, but See the Fire is going to be the other main one that I use without a doubt. I'll see. Maybe I'll do a little more deep dive on Gazora as we get closer. Emmet, it's been over 2 hours. I appreciate you so much. I want to get you out of here. I want to get you to sleep. I know you have a busy week going and week ahead. And after the weekend, I'm hopping right back on your show on the Final Furlong podcast, available on all major podcast networks, good or bad, and YouTube as well. That's first, if I could just say before we talk quickly about the Classic, I absolutely follow the Final Furlong podcast on the biggest racing days because you guys have such great insight in there. And I have no idea what I'm looking at when I look at European races. So on Arc Day, you guys helped me out a ton. That was the most amount of winners I've ever had in a card. And I ignored everything that you guys said for the Breeders' Cup, for the sprint races that took place because I don't like sprint races in the U.S., so I certainly don't like them overseas.
And we were just belittling them as well. We're like, this is crap. This is all rubbish.
I stuck with the lower or the longer races, I should say. Now let's go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. They're going a 1.25 miles, 3-year-olds and upwards, premier race of the weekend. The whole reason they run the Breeders' Cup is to run the Breeders' Cup Classic. Obviously, you have a heavy favorite in Sovereignty in here. I don't know what he is overseas, but that's probably going to give us a good idea of what he is. But he's going to be 3-2 on the day.
Yeah, about 6-4. Yeah.
Yeah. So
3-2. Yeah.
Rightfully so. If you look closely at this, who are you backing? Are you going to back the favorite here? Are you going to try and beat him with maybe last year's winner Sierra Leone or someone else?
Oh, I'm so excited for this race. I cannot wait for this race. It's a 2-horse race, in my opinion. And I've listened to lots of different opinions lots of different people who I really respect and really like. And they're saying, oh, Forever Young, Fierceness is going to control the pace. This is a 2-horse race. This is Sovereignty versus Sierra Leone. They're the only two who count. In my humble opinion, Sovereignty's really special. Like, he's obviously a very special talent. Very impressed with him in the Kentucky Derby. I understand. I really have very little interest in having a Papa Bill Mott. He's going to do what he thinks is best for the horse. obviously you would have wanted to see him go for the Triple Crown, and to then go for the Jim Dandy and the Travers after the Belmont kind of makes you go, well, why didn't you just go for the Preakness? But he knows the horse best. He knows what he's doing. He was brilliant in the Belmont. I mean, if that was the real Belmont of 12 furlongs, he'd have.
He would have. There, I don't know if you've. I assume you've watched the Breeders' Cup or the Belmont Stakes when John Embrial was the race caller. You know, his call by the length of the stretch, we would have gotten that for sure if this was the 12 furlong Belmont. Yeah,
if this was Rags to Riches curling, like proper 12 furlong Belmont, he would have absolutely devoured journalism. Not a great field when he beats Baeza, and I don't know what he achieved the last day at Saratoga, but you can only beat what's put in front of you, and he's crushed everything. So obviously these Into Mischiefs are class as well. So he's a machine. He's very, very talented. He's very, very exciting, and maybe he just goes and wins it. But in Britain and Ireland, a little bit different with the betting. Like obviously you've got the online betting over there now as well, but in Britain and Ireland there's a phrase we like to use. This is an account closer bet, because it's an each way bet, and there's no way it can be out of the first three. And there's a fair chance the horse is going to win. And that's what Sierra Leone is. Sierra Leone is he wins, you get paid out, but you also get an email saying, with all due respect, we would no longer like to offer you betting. And that's what Sierra Leone is. Like that Jockey Club Gold Cup, what a deflating race that was. He's nearly taken out. Not his fault at all. He's nearly taken out.
And Flavien Prat, who him and Irad are the top two jockeys in our country, and he obviously has the competitive fire that all the greats have. But after that, you could tell he was, he obviously was affected. He kept looking back. He wanted to make sure his buddy, his fellow competitor, was okay, and Sierra ran his race and still came charging hard. So I 100%.
I'd like to know your opinion. Did you think he was going to pull him up?
I would not have been surprised. It probably would not have been something that I think where he needed to pull Sierra up unless he took a bad step on Irad, which that sentence itself sounds awful. The horse clearly was okay after that, and thankfully Irad was too. He was back like 2 days later.
It was extraordinary.
How fucking tough can a guy be?
I thought he was dead.
We saw that happen, and that was on national TV, and we were like, oh no, like that is the jockey. Like there's a term Irad money here where he takes money. He could be on a donkey against thoroughbreds, and he would be 7-2. And so the Irad money is real, and he'd finish third. He might even win. But no, when that happened, obviously it kind of, you don't see those top jockeys fall a whole lot.
Yeah.
And when that happened, obviously everybody kind of like froze up, and you could see, again, Pratt looked over his shoulder. He stepped right over him. He could have very well been pulled up, but for him to kind of regain back into that race, Antiquarian, your eventual winner in that race, relative to Sierra Leone, had the cleanest trip imaginable. So it's a full excuse. I backed Sierra pretty heavily that day. And
so did I. Oh my God, I nearly
That's a little disappointing, but all things considered, I'm not upset about it. It wasn't like he lost from a bad ride. The jockey was concerned about the well-being of another jockey. I can't be upset at that. This is a runner to wrap up real quick. He's never missed the trifecta. 13 runs, 13 in the money, 5 firsts, 5 seconds, 3 thirds, winner of over $7 million. I mean, I can't close your bet. Yeah, each way, you mentioned it. This race has to go through Sierra Leone. He is the proven commodity here, without a doubt.
I know this debate about what the pace is going to be like, and Fierceness is going to, he's going to control it. No, Fierceness is going to get murdered just like he did in this race a year ago. So, good luck with Fierceness. Like Forever Young, fine. I know there's lots of people are ranting and raving about him. And hey, if he puts up the Saudi Cup performance, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I don't see it personally. We haven't seen him since the Dubai World Cup. He seemed to really bomb after that massive effort in Saudi. He's running in Japan, hasn't he? And it was a pretty, it was a notable uncompetitive race compared to the prep race that he had the year before. So look, maybe he goes and bounces back. This comes out. There's a piece of data that was given to me by like one of the best data agencies in the UK, and like they crunch all the numbers for American racing, and they don't really want to say this, so maybe I shouldn't be saying it, but oh well, I'm going to. They basically say that Sierra Leone's a certainty because of his stride length. Now there's no such thing as a certainty, and we've been around this game long enough to know that, and he really should have won the last day in this an almost horrible incident that means that he can't. But if that doesn't happen, Ryan, I think he does win this race, and then he's significantly shorter for the Classic. And the fact that he didn't is actually good for us. We might have lost money that day, but it means we're going to win a lot of money on this race, because right now you can get 5-1 about Sierra Leone.
That is absolutely
5-1 about the defending champion.
That one should be a 2. And
it really should be.
Sovereignty, very deserving favorite. I obviously, contrary thinking has been entered into this race as a rabbit, and there's not a lot of pace, and seeing a rabbit on dirt in the U.S. is not a very usual thing. And Mike Rapoli has been very vocal about his displeasure for seeing contrary thinking in, and he's,
but it's okay when he does it.
Sure. And he's since come out to say, like, I don't think it's going to affect fierceness. It's like, he's just going to sit off. It's not going to be a big deal. I've heard other people say that. I'm just going to throw up really quick. This horse right here, who's in front, the number 9, he should win this race. He is 6-5 as they turn for home at Saratoga, and inexplicably he throws in the towel, and he finishes not only off the board, he doesn't even finish in the top 4. I cannot trust a horse like Fierceness to get the job done when he's taken out of his element. And I have to give him credit really quick, because in the Pacific Classic, he did not have things his own way. He had every single reason to lose that race and throw in the towel if he was the Fierceness of old, but he made a decisive split between runners, and he powered home, and he beat Journalism by open lengths, something that's not easy to do. The only other horse to do that is Sovereignty, who's going to be your favorite in here. My thought on contrary thinking is that, one, if he goes 45 to the half, even if he's doing it himself and the horse doesn't matter, he's still going 45 to the half, and Sierra Leone is going to be very comfortable back there, and he's going to be able to run his race. Whereas Fierceness, he could be 6 lengths back, he's still going 46 to the half. So yeah. All that to say, you're putting that horse, one, out of his element, because while he'd be fine coming from off the pace, that I don't think is where you get his, his, not just his top performance, but you put a horse in chase mode. And that's an uncomfortable way for a horse to be running, especially if they like, being forward and they have natural speed. They're smart animals. They think that they can be closer to the pace, and maybe you get them running a little out of their element. Well, Sierra Leone, he's going to be basically on a couch for the first 3/4 of this race. And when they turn for home, he's going to be coming like a freight train. And I'm with you 100%. Sierra Leone's my absolute top pick in this race. My second choice is, though, Forever Young. I do think Forever Young can run a huge race. I expect him to. And man, he deserves one of these big wins. He really does. So I don't think I'm going to play him on top. I think Sierra is pretty much going to be my single in all my tickets as of right now. But I have to try and beat Sovereignty. If Sovereignty wins, I'll tip my cap. Well done. Like that would be one hell of a 3-year-old campaign. But it's all Sierra for me, and I think it's all Sierra for you too. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they've obviously announced they're going to retire him at the end of the season anyway. They're not going to go for the Dubai World Cup or the $1 billion Saudi Cup. I don't get it either. I would have loved. Same with Mindframe. They're all retired after this race. You're leaving so much money on the table. What are you doing? I really don't get it. But hey, look, they must have mares booked, and people must want to breed to them. So fair enough. And he's a gun runner, so Coolmore are going to want that too. So good luck. They know what they're doing. That's a lot of money you're leaving on the table, though. But look, I'm adamant it's between these two. And if Sovereignty goes and does it, what a horse! What a horse! If you're beaten by the 6-4. Dual Classic winner, who's the first horse ever to win all those Grade 1s in history. Yeah, you can belittle the Jim Dandy if you want. I don't want to do that. I think fair enough. Look, he's done it. It's there. But Sierra Leone murdered them in this race a year ago, and murdered
Absolutely butchered Fierceness. I couldn't understand. I couldn't get my head. Did people see Fierceness get duffed on the slop? Why was he favored for that? I couldn't understand it at all. Sometimes you see something very clearly and you can't understand how other people can't see it.
Yeah.
You see this the same as me. 5-1 Sierra Leone. Like maybe this is real simple. We just do the Rebels Romance, Sierra Leone, each way double. Boom. See you in Dubai.
It's probably that simple, to be completely honest. Throw Precise in there too. Precise isn't losing. But on Breeders' Cup Saturday, I'm with it. Yeah. You Breeders' Cup is all about
Precise, humidity, Rebels Romance / Goliath, Sierra Leone.
There you go. Accounts closed for sure after that.
We won't care. It won't matter.
They're going to tell the bookmakers. They tell everybody if that were to happen. So, no, I'm 100% with you. I think Sierra Leone, I get the pace argument where there's not going to be the pace there was last year. But at 1.25 miles, the pace always develops. And I think contrary thinking is there to make sure of that. And even if he does it by himself, the fact remains Sierra is going to be in his comfortable zone. And something about the Del Mar dirt track, I don't have the exact stat in front of me. My co-host Jackson Muniz did an excellent job researching stats the other day for a show we did on HHH on Pacific Horse Players, going over Del Mar track trends. So all the credit to him. But going 1.25 miles on dirt, you have to have the lead when you turn from home. Like it's not a winning scenario if you're still making your move. And I have all the respect in the world for Junior Alvarado and obviously Sovereignty and the body of work that they've done. Flavien Prat last year, when you watch the Classic, he made a move that on other tracks would be premature. He made it at the right time. He had the lead turning for home, and that was it. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
It is hard to make up ground. The stretch at Del Mar is only 919 feet. You get at Churchill, you can make the run halfway down the stretch, and you'll still have 919 feet practically to make that move. The stretch at Del Mar is not very long. You got to have the run. You got to have the lead turning for home. And that's the key. So I know and trust that Flavien Prat is going to make that move at the right time. Doesn't matter if you're wide. Doesn't matter if you hug the rail. It just matters if you're in front. And I think that my trust in Prat to do that, I haven't seen Alvarado do that. And not saying he can't, not saying he won't. Again, he's a very intelligent rider, and he rides Sovereignty better than anybody I've seen ride a horse this year. I got to trust Sierra Leone at the price that I'm going to get.
Well, if Sierra Leone gets first run on him, it's over.
Correct.
And even if he doesn't, if for some reason Sovereignty gets first run on him, there's still a chance that Sierra Leone beats him because he's got that incredible turn of foot and that really powerful stride.
Yeah, I would say I'd slightly disagree with the part of if Sovereignty were to get the jump, he that's a game horse. I don't think that he's gonna want to get past. He's good. He's a tough horse.
But I
think Sierra's stride ultimately would wear him down. I just wonder, they would really have to make the move at the same time, and I hope we get a stretch battle between the two. Would just be, oh my god, like
we want the fight
shaped up. We want it. If I lose, I hope it's Sierra and Sovereignty going ding dong down the entire lane, and I lose a close photo. Like that would be, it would be incredible to watch one. And again, to see a horse like Sovereignty complete the season he has. With the Derby, Belmont, Travers, and then the Breeders' Cup Classic would be tremendous.
It's the Ken Watanabe meme from Godzilla. Let them fight. Let them fight. Just have the two of them go to absolute war off the final turn. But there's no... You can only do win Sovereignty. You have the upside with Sierra Leone. You have the win, play, show. You can do the each way. And if you and I get beaten by Sovereignty, well done, Bill Mott. Well done, Godolphin. Incredible season. Well done.
Yeah.
But Sierra Leone's 5-1.
You can't pass up on 5-1. You just can't. You just can't. All right. Emmet, thank you so much. It's been almost 2.5 hours. You just did over an hour and a half on the HHH. You just came in here. You're on hour 4 or beyond right now. So I can't thank you enough for the time. Thanks so much for joining. That was as fun as it always is being joined by you. We always have a banger of a time. I don't know if that's a saying that you guys have over there. I can't keep track. But as usual, you had a couple of those sayings that just made me absolutely lose all composure. You said a horse couldn't ride 1 mile in a horse box, I think is one of them. I don't even know what that means. But, I mean, last time we had you on, you said someone couldn't train a dog to walk, and that one I have still kept in the back of my head. That one lives rent free, and I'm going to use that every chance I get because man, that is that's up there with top sayings that someone could use.
I really enjoyed it, Ryan. That's the only reason I stayed on so long is because I really enjoyed talking to you and doing these shows. It was a lot of fun, and we'll try and be more short, sharp, and succinct on Monday. But I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to having yourself.
Going to make that real easy for us.
Yeah, we're going to have the boss man. Howard's going to be in the house. But Charlie's bound to go on a Frankie Dettori rant at some point, so I'm looking forward to it.
He is, without a doubt. Please give the people the plug one more time for where we can find you. And yes, I will be joining you on Monday on the Final Furlong podcast.
Final Furlong podcast. You can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good podcast apps, and some rubbish ones as well. And we're all over X as well, at Final Furlong Pod, at Radio Emmet. Ryan, absolute pleasure, my friend.
Absolute pleasure. I'm Ryan Anderson. That's Emmet Kennedy. Thanks so much again. We'll be back tomorrow with our next show. Tomorrow is October 25th. I will be joined live at, let me find out what time because my schedule's all over the place. I will be joined at 3 p.m. Pacific time by none other than the morning line maker for the Breeders' Cup and best morning line maker in the biz. Also works for DRF. That's David Aragona.
Legend.
Aragona. He is incredible. I love having him on. Love having you on. I'll see you on Monday, Emmett. Have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been the Gallop Out.